I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First of all, welcome everybody. We are a couple minutes late. We do apologize for that. Had a rough week. So we'll get started. The first thing is, as normal, on the we normally have a window of opportunity for anybody that's got anything they want to bring up that's not on the agenda. Comments, questions, anything of that nature. Now's the time to do that. No action will be taken, but we'll at least hear it. So, yes, sir.
John Edrington, just kind of following up from about 2 months ago. We came forward and talked about the pigeon roost situation. It's been 2 months following up on it. So since that time, I know that Tom's gone out there and he's identified several trees. I know that Mr. Ramoni is kind of waiting for some clarification on which trees to take out. But also since that time, 2 additional trees have fallen on the fence on both the south and the north side. So just trying to see some action. I mean, right now it's not costing me any money, but when spring comes, I need to put animals in there. We got holes in fences. It's going to be a real big problem.
And you pretty well know about as much as I know on this, to be honest. I know that both the gentlemen went out and looked. I do know that they are going to clean it back. What was it, 50 feet or something? Whatever it is, they are going to clean it back, and they're going to use it as a training, I believe, for the group that Mr. Ramoni's in. And they just, I think, they wait on a little drier weather, a little better weather to do that. Once that happens, then we'll go in and, I'm assuming, repair the fence or put up new fence or whatever needs to be done at that point.
That doesn't make sense to fix fence if trees are
Yeah.
falling again.
And so, as far as I know, everything is in the process, is what I've been told, and just as soon as this, of course, you know, it's beautiful southern Indiana, it rains every other day, and we don't just get a little rain, we gotta get 2 or 3 inches a week, so I think they're kinda holding off, maybe it's a little bit better, and then go in and start removing the trees, and cleaning that back, and we'll go from there then, as far as
Here to follow up on it, make sure something's being done.
yeah,
Put it on the
we,
agenda.
nothing that we've certainly not forgot about it, it's just a matter of waiting on them right now. And we did have them go down and look at the trees, see if there was anything of any value, basically very little value on the trees as far as trying to recoup any cost or anything of doing anything. So I think it's just gonna be pretty simple, go in and clean it back and get that one.
I have talked to Richard Jameson on the Critter and all those fences.
Yeah.
And asked him if he go down. He hasn't done it yet. I want to take him down and see what the value might be of replacing the damage.
Yeah, so since we've talked though, on the north side, that used to be a 3-wire barbed wire, there's been another tree that's fallen close to where the trailer is up there.
I'll get Cricket down there before too long. We did discuss it.
That's on the south side, isn't
The south side, you're right.
it? Say that.
Yeah. It's on the south side, and there's one on the north side as well.
But again, like I say, I think that should, I would think probably in the next month or 2, I would think it would start moving pretty quickly at that point.
Just for spring is what I'm asking for. I release animals. I'm not gonna leave them into the mud hole just like you.
Sure,
are
yeah,
in the mud hole,
yeah,
So.
yeah. So I think everything's gonna go for it, just a matter of waiting on the weather to change a little bit.
We appreciate
All right.
it, yes.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Anybody else? All right, we will move directly into the agenda. And Mr. Rose, come on up.
He retired, that guy didn't think. I don't know where you guys like for people to stand.
You can
I'll
stand,
just
sit, just sit down, how's that?
I'll just sit down there, how about that?
I want you to lay down.
I would never do that, Mike, I couldn't do that. I appreciate you all letting us come tonight and be on the agenda. Tammy, thanks for helping me get through that process. Basically, I wanted to accomplish just 2 things, okay? I want to talk about the program that's been going on at Mid-America Science Park over the past couple of years, but the last year in particular. And I know that last year, Mr. Peacock came and asked for an additional funding of $20,000 for programming at the science park, and that was to go into the robotic program and the Maverick Challenge. And I don't know of anything else that was targeted at that time. But first of all, I want to say thanks for that money. It really helped boost that program. Touched every school in the county, high school, middle school, elementaries, Grace Christian, and even the 4-H. So I want to tell you how much we appreciate that. In a minute, I want to let Bobby tell you a little bit more in detail of what the money went for, so you get a report on what you bought. But also, I want to, as you know, bring to your attention that the past several years that the city has contracted BDC to manage the science park, and now the city is going to be assuming the management responsibilities themselves. So as we go through the transition, I just would like to put in a plug and ask the county to continue with that funding for the robotics and the Maverick Challenge, and it's easy for things to get lost between the cracks during transition, and I'd hate to see that happen. And we're at the point right now where we're going to be making plans for the VEX next year, so we kind of need to know in advance, what we have to work with. So anyway, I don't know, I think most of you had an opportunity to meet Bobby Foster, but the money that you allocated last year went to Bobby to do these things. So I'm going to hush, and I'm going to let her tell you what she was able to accomplish, and if you have any questions, then we'll come back with those.
All right.
I always like paper.
Oh,
So we have the Maverick Challenge, which is that short piece on the top. That is a year-long program that's run through the schools, but we purchase the curriculum so that the teachers have access to it. And it's all about getting kids the skills to be an entrepreneur and then network among other industries. So our top student this year is a jewelry maker. She's going next weekend to compete up in Seymour. Last year, Mike Everett and his cohort, they won not only the county championships, they won it for the whole region. So we've definitely seen some great success come out of that program. Well over 100 students, and it is District 1, District 2 that choose to participate in that program, but it is open to any high school student in the county. On that second page, that's the VEX Robotics program. That's where we started. But as with most things, when we got started, we realized there was a skill gap. So we taught kids elementary through middle school with the robotics. We had a camp with over 100 students attending in the summer. We had a coaches camp because unfortunately we've also found our coaches are a little behind the times. And there's a gap between what we consider an elite team, those that have been doing it for many years, and then ours that are we're still in that beginner to intermediate range. So we're trying to equip the coaches as well. In addition, coding, that's an important piece of doing this robotics program. A lot of the schools, they just can't integrate. They've got enough going on, but that's just one more piece. So this summer, again, we opened it up to all the students, all the schools, and we had 11 kids come through the coding camp. And then, again, one more gap was identified, and that was at the high school level, that they don't have a robotics program. So now we do. Again, collectively, all of the school districts came together to support this program. We started with 17 kids. I'd say we've got about 7 or 8 who they fit that mold of the tech kid. So one of the pictures on the bottom of your page, the bottom left, they're taking, familiar with the hover-round vehicles? So they're taking 2 of those apart, and they're going to program them, add some components to program them to be a coat in the Scottsburg High School play. So that's just, they're using actual applications in order to learn these skills of programming, mechanical engineering, design. They're creating little robots with servo motors. They're learning a lot, sometimes by error, but I think sometimes that's the best way to learn. So at this point, we really are a 3rd through 12th grade program for both of these.
And I've been, excuse me, Bobby, I just want to say, I've volunteered with robotics since we started, because it was in the school when, when we began. But I've seen a lot of increased interest in it. This past year, we not only did the tournaments that we do on Saturdays, and I think we ended up doing 4 of those, didn't we? But we also had a 5-night league that, that met out there on Thursdays. And, all the county schools, the teams were involved in that. And, I mean, it just helps the kids, gives them more experience, lets them see what other kids are doing, gives them ideas, and I think that was very beneficial too.
Did they have a state, couple of them go to the state?
I did not have a chance to pull the number, but I believe we have at least 4 teams that qualified to go to state, which is going to be March 7th.
At Lucas Oil
At
Stadium.
Lucas Oil Stadium.
And we had last year, we had a team go to the World.
We did. One team make it.
The 20,000, I mean, total separate from 65.
Yes, that was what I,
That's a
and
whole
John,
different boat there.
well, I know, but it was one contract that
Yeah.
last year, that's what Tammy and I talked about, but it was, that was what the additional 20,000 was for. And that's why I just wanted to make sure everyone understood, and whatever we need to do to move forward, you tell me.
Well, you do some good things. I've been out there, and I know the value of what you're doing. I'm trying to figure out, do we need to go for 85 or 20 and then do the other one separate?
Well,
I'm not sure we're all,
Well, I think whoever provides the services, needs control of the money. So, and EDC is not going to be providing the services this year. So, I mean, that's, but however that works out, that's up to you guys.
When they came last year, did we not decide, I thought it was, they really didn't come with it being described as for a program, did they? They just came in and said they wanted additional money.
Additional money, remember, yeah.
But I think Robert said that he came back and, the commissioner wanted a little more detail of how it was spent, and that's, and so he kind of gave that report, and this is follow up on that. I mean, that's actually what they.
But I guess where I was going with that was that if we approved the additional 20 last year, I mean, that wasn't a year-to-year back and forth, was it? We just agreed to pay them 20 more than we normally would pay them. And that was a continuous thing, wasn't it? It wasn't something they had to come back every year for.
It is.
Well, it's a year-to-year contract, yeah.
What's a year-to-year
Yeah,
contract?
EDC
The money
is year-
was-
Yeah.
The increase, I thought was not something was going to be judgmental after that.
and I like the money. I mean, I want to help on this. I'm not too sure that I want it to be something we just sign up for the rest of our life.
And no one expects that. And for one thing, I'd like to be able to come back and give reports about what was done. I've sat on that side of the table, and sometimes you approve funding, and that's last year, but I kind of like to know what we got for the money.
I'm kind of, I know what you're thinking here, and I think, I won't say that you're 100% right, but I can't say that you're 100% wrong either. So it's one of them deals where I think it's, and Donnie, I'll point you out here. Donnie's one of our county councilmen, and I do think it's a good opportunity for these kids. And I've seen what it, like John, I've seen what it does. I'm certainly would be in favor of trying to help you on that, if that's something that can we separate that, you think?
It's appropriated in redevelopment fund.
It is.
So the redevelopment board is meeting Monday at 1:30. So it's already appropriated, $85,000 amount has already been budgeted and appropriated by council and approved in that redevelopment budget. Should you get us a billing entity, then that agreement for 20,000
It could be the Mid-America Science Park. I mean, that's.
We just need an agreement then, for whoever we need to write the check to, and then we would just cut it out of that line, and then leave 65 should EDC come to you with their regular.
So we got to vote on Monday, right?
But not necessarily, the money's already there. So commissioners, this could be kind of backwards, the commissioners could recommend that redevelopment agree to recommend to have payment. You guys can just agree to it a little bit before redevelopment does. That's all.
So the money's,
It's there.
there.
like,
We have
like I
voted
said,
on it.
it's
Yeah,
there.
so there's there.
But we need
There
to
is.
break it away
We have
so,
voted.
so
If you guys
economic
do.
development.
Then that can go to redevelopment,
Okay.
Yeah.
And,
If it goes into their budget, then they.
It's just
they
a
assume-
fact.
Yeah.
Usually redevelopment recommends this.
And it would be all right
You
if they,
can do it
they,
backwards.
they hire Bob,
No,
but that's,
it's the 20.
Okay, thank you. That's where I was trying to sort out, thank you. Okay.
so, and again, the 20,000 would have to be earmarked for the Maverick Challenge and the robotics program.
or program, you know, I would like to be programming in general, because like this year, the high school program was added and the coding. I mean, you know, those were, I don't want to limit it. If we want to expand, then you know, I'd like to be able to do that. But, you know, I think the main focus, you're right, Bob, is the VEX and the Maverick Challenge.
To keep that, yeah.
But
And I'm for this, and I don't know where we're going somewhere down the road. Someday I hope that you don't need the 1,000. I don't know where that's gonna happen or if it's gonna happen. And I do it out there.
But, well, but it, you know, we look at it every year. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
Yeah.
that's fair.
So,
What do we need?
you want to vote on it?
The money's already there, it just needs to be separated.
It's really a recommendation from you all to the redevelopment. So you can make the recommendation, move to make the recommendation.
Recommendation for 20,000.
20.
That, yeah, I think I would probably say that, put the form of motion to take the 20,000 from the already budgeted 85,000 for EDC and for the redevelopment to take 20,000 of that and apply it to the Mid-America Science Park for the program, the Maverick Challenge and robotics program along with any future programs that they would. I would.
I don't want to cut
I could
anything.
use it different.
Yes, would that suffice, you think?
Yes, sir. Is that a vote or?
I tell you what, again, every school in the county pretty well participated in it. And it's countywide participation, and I just, you know, I think it's a wonderful program for the students of this county. And whenever you have 4 teams that made it to the state level, and, you know, to a lot of us, that's not a big deal. Sometimes we think about that, but when you got students that may first time walk in Lucas Oil Stadium and compete up there, that's a big deal. It's a real big deal. And I'm tickled to death that the program's in place, so.
You have talked to the mayor about this, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just,
Yeah, no, that's one thing, I mean, just popped into my mind in this transition, we better decide what it looks like, or
yeah.
it'll go away from out here.
And so,
I'll make a motion to split it, split the money, the 20,000 out for the Mass Park to be used for the Maverick Challenge and the robotic program, as well as any other programs that you feel fit to use your 20,000 on.
And I'll second that motion.
I'll make that unanimous, that's pretty painless, wasn't it?
That was, I'll tell you, anytime you want to come out and be part of what's going on, come on out if you have questions, but if you don't mind, we'll come back next year and tell you what we did.
Great, and like I say, people who, anybody that's sitting out in the audience here, if you've never had an opportunity to see something like that, it's pretty amazing.
It's usually streamed on that, yeah, I mean, you don't have to go, you can watch it on the internet.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see some of the talent that these young people have, and, you know, how they work together as teams to get to where they need to be.
Still working on your other sources?
Pardon me, I'm working every place.
Okay.
My main goal is to try to keep the programming in place right now, what we have. I don't want to, just like you and I talked, I don't want to see us slide backwards.
That's,
Yeah, so
that's the last thing that anybody wants to see. We're gonna work, and we're not going to, we're gonna move forward.
well, I appreciate that, I really do. It'll be well spent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Well,
what
he
you do.
retired that.
Well, we was ready to,
I know.
or else, you know.
I get it. That was beating inside our heads, wasn't it?
It was.
Thanks. See you later.
All right, how about the DAV transportation program? Come on up, gentlemen.
I'm good.
How are you tonight?
Great, how are you?
Good.
Young lady doing tonight?
Not too bad.
My name's Kevin Tolan. My business starts on your old desk there.
Yes, sir. I work for the VA hospital in Louisville. I'm the volunteer service coordinator and specialist for the DAV transportation program. And Kevin here is the Indiana state adjutant for the DAV. And so we kind of, it's a partnership between our two programs, the VA hospital and Kevin calling the DAV. Kevin's got more information. He's done this a lot longer than I have, so I'm gonna let him talk about the rest of it.
We have programs out of the 92 counties throughout the state. We have programs in several of the counties where we have a transportation network that takes VA patients, to their county service office appointments, county service officer, and also to their VA appointments, mental health, dental, vision, medical, whatever the case may be. Wherever the VA doctor writes for them to go, that's what we're trying to provide. The service is free to the veteran. It's free to the county as well. There is an initial startup cost that we have on getting anything up and running. The program actually belongs to the VA. It's theirs. They're the governing body over it. The DAV helps to supply the drivers and the vehicles. What we try to do is we try to raise money within the county where you have ownership of the program. And the contract there gives you the different vehicles that we have available and what their capacities are. And we usually order in November, and then you'll receive in June, July, that time frame. And they'll transport anywhere from 7 to 12 veterans per trip. And here they'll go to the Scott County Clinic or to they could go to the Indianapolis if so desired, but mostly the Roby Rex. The van program for the DAV, we've transported over 250,000 miles and hundreds of volunteers in this program. And what it's meant to do is take some of the pressure off of the counties. The veterans that do not have transportation or whatever their visit is, say they're having a procedure done to have their eyes dilated and they can't drive. This process is meant to go into place there. It also removes the burden of the VA of paying travel expense. Because if you're so far away from the VA clinic that they're sending you to, there's a travel voucher that they turn in for reimbursement. Out of the vehicles that we have, the smallest ones are around 16,000. Most expensive one I think is around 24,000. And in the breakdown there, you see what the percentage of what the vehicle costs. We raise that money inside the county, and then I write a grant to our national organization for the remaining balance. And then once the vehicle is purchased, it leaves Detroit, comes to Cold Springs, Kentucky. When it gets there, we have the vehicle wrapped with the DAV and the voluntary logo on there, so it's recognizable by the veterans, so that everybody can see what it is and they recognize, what the van's there for. And it usually stays here, right here in the county. Because of the distance is the real reason. We'll normally pick a government center or a police department to park it somewhere where they've got security. And the county service officer will work sometimes as a coordinator, or they may take a volunteer to do local coordination. The veterans in the community will call them up and say, hey, I have a doctor's appointment set for 2 o'clock at Roby Rex, and the transportation director up here will assign them to a driver, and the driver will go to their home, pick them up, take them to the appointment, bring them back home and drop them off. The key to it is they have transportation there and we get transportation back. So that's what the critical thing is. For the DAV, with us paying for between 40 to 50% of the cost of the vehicle. That's our contribution to the county. Once the vehicle gets here and it's utilized, they'll usually run anywhere between 100,000. That's with our MOU we have between the VA and the DAV. 100,000 is usually when we take the vehicle out of service. Once that vehicle comes out, the county will return it to the VA, and the VA will call me. I'll come down and pick it up. We send it into the shop, and the shop will do all the maintenance inspections on it. And then normally, as long as the vehicle is serviceable, we'll find a buyer for the vehicle, and then the cost of that van is the seed money towards the new van. So, for instance, we did one in Crown Point, Indiana, and they raised $8,000 for the vehicle. That $8,000 went towards the purchase of the next van coming in. A lot of times the counties will have the state auditor collect the donation or the county service officer, and then they can send it to the department where it goes into a service foundation account for the county. And then the auditor will sometimes call us and say, can you send me a data report of how much we have in the accounts up there. The program itself, once it's initiated, and I turn over the new van to the hospital, they'll put a license plate and a credit card in it. That license plate and credit card is dedicated to that vehicle. That credit card allows them to purchase fuel, wiper blades, if it needs tires, or maintenance during the life of the vehicle. So the county's not out any of that money, the DAV's not out that money, the VA program picks up those expenses. As far as training, the VA does all the training on the drivers. You have to go through the VA training program to get certified. Once you become certified, the only ones that we take are the ones that are able to come down on their own accord to get into the van. They gotta be able to load themselves. We'll transport and bring them back, and they have to be able to dismount the van and go back in. On the ones that are ambulatory,
Those are the ambulatory,
those are the ones the VA has private contract for those.
but not ambulatories.
Right, not
So people in wheelchairs and scooters that aren't able to get in and out of the vehicle. We have a different department that has paid employees that are able to pick up and transport those patients.
So we're covering both bases with this type of program. The benefit to it is that the veterans are being able to be serviced, and they're able to get to their county service officer. Where that helps the counties at is that the other side of the thing that we're doing, we are presented a bill to be authored this year for the county service officers to get part funding from the state of Indiana. That funding would come through the Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs. Joe DeVito, who is the regional rep, he just got promoted about 2 weeks ago. He is now the outreach director for the IDVA. I'm a commissioner on that board. So Joe, who's worked with you all in the past, he's got a replacement that they interviewed today, and we have a tentative commitment, but now they have to go through the process of legalities and background check, things like that. So they'll have a new director down, or a new Southwest coordinator down here. But in the length of time that the van is in use, the credit card and the license plate will be maintained by the county here. The county will have full control over who gets in the van, who gets out of the van. The memorandum of the understanding is all handed out to them during the training at the VA hospital. They do a background check, they do fingerprinting, they do physicals, they do the whole workup on there. And that's to help us for the liability. Some counties use private-owned vehicles to do it, and there is a liability attached with that to that individual who's transporting them. So we really recommend using the program that's covered. If the vehicle's in an accident, the driver is already informed. There's a class on that where they call the VA immediately. The VA will dispatch another vehicle to remove that, or any ambulance if it's needed, and they'll transport the veteran. And then they'll contact me and say one of our vans have been damaged. Then it's my job to get with a body shop to get it in and try to get you a vehicle in replacement while that one's being repaired and put back into service. And if it's totaled, then we start the process of trying to get a new van brought back up online. The vehicles usually last between 5 to 7 years before they reach their life expectancy. I have, in northern part of the state, where the weather is really hard, some of those vehicles have went 300,000 miles before they got turned back in. There's not a lot of value left on them when they hit 300,000 miles. So then we have to start the whole process all over again of raising the funding for it. What we try to do is, and it goes through my office and with Trent, if we do have vendors out there or donors that want to support it, we acknowledge them on the vehicle. We will put their information on there to allow the public to realize who is supporting the program that's transporting the veterans from the county here. So it's meant to satisfy the need of getting the veterans to and from their appointments, because a lot of the problems that we have is because they're not in the program of seeking medical care. So we're trying to get that put into place. We've talked to the hospitals of the different CBOCs, the different clinics that have been put into the counties, to try to make it a little closer for them to travel so they don't have to go Indianapolis or Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm sure you're all familiar with those as well. My job in the state is, I started out with 165 vehicles. That number has went drastically down because a lot of the counties cannot financially keep drivers there. You know, we'll help to bring them in, we'll do the advertisement for them, be able to do all the training for them. But they're residents from the county here. So it's the participation of the populace here. The program works. It's nationwide. Cold Springs, Kentucky, last year we spent 165 vehicles out on the road as a new vehicle purchase for the entire nation. In Indiana, we bought 9 of those 165, and they've been dispersed to the different hospitals. So I'm the one that does I sit down with the county service officer and I say, what is your need? And they'll say, we transport 4 to 6, 7 veterans a day. How many days do you use it? Well, we travel this many days. There's a utilization that has to be done on that vehicle, because you don't want to invest on a vehicle that's sitting there, and we don't want to invest in that. So that vehicle has to run a certain number of miles per month or a certain number of trips. And that's why it's important for me to look and see what the county's need is. Then when you show me how many veterans you transport, we decide the vehicle that's best suited for your needs. I call the hospital, get an authorization form signed by the director. I submit the application. The funding starts before I submit the application for our national organization, and then I write a grant for the DAV side of it. If the grant is approved, which is usually 40 to 50%, the vans are ordered in November and then delivered to my office somewhere in the June and July mark. Jim McIntyre, he's from my office. He's the Department Service Officer for the state of Indiana, and he's been in the VTM program for many years, driven many, many miles. And it's a relationship that's built between the veteran and the driver. They get to know each other personally, become friends with them. But the vast majority of them tell us that it's a program they couldn't live without. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to receive their benefit. The one thing we're trying to do, the DAV, it's called the Big Four. It's American Legion, DAV, DFW, and AMVETS. And we've approached the legislators and we're asking them for $22,400 to grant the counties that apply for it funding for their county service officers. So what we're trying to do is help influx money in there, because as that county service officer, as they're processing claims for the veterans, for every one of those that go through, if it's granted, that's federal dollars that come into the county where they're able to spend here in the community. So that's how important the county service officer's position is. Once we start getting those people coming into him, that's when we found out about the need of the transportation. Because veterans were saying, you know, now that I've got my disability established, I can get to the doctor for treatment. So the system has worked in a lot of counties. We're looking to put one in Floyd County. All it takes is the county to be able to accept the responsibility of it, because the county veteran service officer works for you. And we try not to put any extra work on them, because we ask that a volunteer do the coordinating, and they work directly under the county service officer. If you all have a van here and it gets returned, I go through that county service officer and say, I'm gonna have a van returned, you'll get it in 60 days. Once VA brings it in, pulls the plate and the credit card, They send it to me. I do a vehicle maintenance report, make sure it's safe to return to you. I transport it back to the counties if it has a value to it, or we'll sell it up in Indianapolis. Then that money is available to the county to use towards the next vehicle.
So currently, I know you're familiar with the Scott County Clinic. That's primarily for primary care and mental health appointments, okay? So if you have a veteran who has to go to a specialty care appointment, say, they have to see a cardiologist, or they have to see the eye doctor, or things of that effect,
Dental.
dental and stuff like that, those are all done at the main hospital in Louisville. Those are out, and that's, of course, where I work at. But, so that's where a lot of the transportation need comes in, is getting to those specialty clinic appointments, and getting, you know, if they live far away from the clinic, of course, trying to just get to the primary care. But all of our, you know, I've got 17 vans right now in Indiana and Kentucky, and we transport approximately between 400 and 500 veterans every month to and from their appointments. Hundreds of hours in transportation, and it's all done by volunteers.
So do you have any numbers on how many veterans in Scott County are being transported now?
Currently, very few.
Because you don't have a program yet.
Right now, right. I know Faith over in Jefferson County and Kevin Bateman in Washington County, they're service officers for those two counties. Both tell me they get phone calls from people in Scott County. And the only way they can pick them up is if they come to the county line and pick them up from that county. Because the vehicle's assigned to your county.
When they go through when a veteran goes to the VA, do they not ask them, hey, what county are you coming from, so you have a record of potential people that could be transported?
I could run contact my eligibility department to see how many veterans we have in Scott County.
I've got that record also.
Yeah,
It's
he may have that.
it's
I don't
called
have that
TDX.
number in
It's
front of me.
generated by the
But
VA.
I can tell you there's a lot of people in Scott County. You know, we need to.
Well, I know there's veterans here,
Yeah,
but a
there's
lot of
veterans.
times veterans won't reach out
And
and
that's
ask
the
for
thing.
help, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking is if,
Well, and-
if you have a record of
I,
how many potential people we're talking about here.
I can tell you that I have to turn people away because we don't have vehicles up there. I
The
get
the
phone
one thing
calls.
that we find
Yeah.
most of the time is your American Legion, DFW, and you have a DAV chapter up here as well. Those members know the other veterans inside the community. And once they know a transportation system is in place, that's when you start getting the phone calls in and the coordination comes in. But every time a veteran goes to a VA appointment or any of the VA to seek eligibility or benefits or anything like that, the very first thing they ask them in an appointment is, do you get paid travel? If they say, no, I don't get paid travel, then that opens the door for their next questions. Do you know about the transportation network? Every hospital has a voluntary services, and they dispatch from that hospital. But we also dispatch from the counties. So we do have vehicles that are stationed at the hospital, and I have a fleet that are out in the counties that supplies, because they're just too far to drive from Louisville to here to pick up and then bring back forth.
And like I said, unfortunately, there are veterans who call every day saying, hey, can I get a ride? And I'm sorry, I don't have a vehicle in that county to give you a ride. It's not just Scott County, it's other counties as well. But we get calls like that all the time. And even some of the counties that we service, we have greater need than we have vehicles available. Because if you get one veteran on one side of the county and another on the other side of the county, and you have one driver and one vehicle, but both their appointments at the same time, it makes it difficult to get both of them at the same time. But they do, our goal is to get as many veterans there as possible and service as many of them as we can.
You probably said that, maybe I didn't catch it, but will it be titled to the VA or will it be a county home?
Well, they're not titled. They're called origination documents, and the federal government says that if they take possession of a vehicle, it's never actually titled. It's a certificate of origination, and it's held by the VA. The VA hospital will get the documentation from me, giving the VIN number and everything. They will send that information off to Washington. That's where the title will be made up and held at. And then once the county turns the vehicle back in, the certificate of title goes to the VA. They sign off on it. They call me. I sign off on it. And then that's when I call the county and say, I have a van that's now been returned. And to give you an example, in Gibson County, we have where the auditor will send us the yearly check, and that goes into an account. The check is for whatever the county is willing to do, and sometimes it varies. Once they receive enough money to purchase a van, I write the grant for the second half. I accept the money from the county. I submit the application. When that comes in, then we make the purchase. When the auditor will call me and say, how's my account? If there was a van that was turned in and one that was sold, then I let them know that there's been, say, an $8,000 influx into the account above what they're already tracking. And they already know, so they're aware, the county's already aware of how much is in their accounts because the auditor usually sends it. If it's collected by the county service officer, Tom will be the one that will report back to you and tell you that we've had, because like John Jones, they've been a very good sponsor of the DAV van transportation, and Forrest Lucas from Lucas Oil in Harrison County helps us with the van program up there. So they'll contact us at the department. I'll write the letter that'll be prepared to give to the vendors, and a lot of times the vendors in the community will help support it, car lots and different things like that.
Ideally, once we get the initial vehicle going, or get funding for the initial vehicle, the idea is that try to get community fundraising events,
Mhm.
using the service officers, the service organizations like the American Legion DAV, have them do fundraisers to continue while that vehicle's in service to raise money for the next one. That way, it's not a huge expense on the county. It's something that, okay, we know in 3 to 5 years or whatever it may be, we're gonna need another vehicle. So let's raise a little bit of money during that 3 to 5 years, so the next time this comes up, the money's already there.
What some of the counties will do is they'll make the initial investment into the program, and then once that vehicle is in service and is being utilized, that's when the members of the organizations will start utilizing the program and see the value of it. And their clubs, usually during their gaming side of it, will support the program, because they'll call me. American Legion, VFW are big sponsors of the program. They'll call up and say, Jim just collected from the American Legion up there $1,000 from 2 different posts for the program. So a lot of times, the county will only have that initial expense. The fundraisers that are done inside the counties will be the ones that actually keep it going after that. And as long as the vehicles are maintained, because all the maintenance is free, all the fuel's free.
That's what
The title, the registration, the insurance, all that's free. So as long as they maintain it, you have a value of it when it's left over. And it's left up to me to return it to you. Sometimes the counties say, we don't want the vehicle. Sometimes they'll say, we'll take it back and we're gonna let our county service officer drive it. That's strictly up between you and us. You let me know what we're gonna do at that point. But I have about 40 to 50% investment in it, and then the county, whether it be you or the, volunteers, will have about 40% to 50% investment in it.
What do you need us to do? I know we put a big spiel here, but what do we?
Well, ideally, we'd like the county to agree to fund their portion of the first vehicle request and agree to support the program by either helping us recruit volunteers, which that's what I'm gonna do as well. I'll try to recruit volunteers or have the service officer help coordinate the transportation program. Because ideally, every county, I try to have a coordinator, and that coordinator is going to be the person taking the calls from the veterans and scheduling the rides, okay? I also want to try to get about 7 volunteer drivers. Ideally, one volunteer says, hey, I can drive on Mondays, another one says I can drive on Tuesdays, whatever, Monday through Friday, and have a few extras in case somebody takes vacation or somebody's off, they're out sick, whatever. You want to have at least 7 volunteer drivers. The coordinator helps take the calls, says, okay, here's, John's schedule for Monday, we're picking up the veterans A, B, and C, here's where their appointments are, and then get them home. Typically, we have a vehicle parked at, say, the sheriff's office, so that if the appointments are at 8 a.m. in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, they can go to the sheriff's office, because there's somebody there 24/7, get the keys to that vehicle, hop in it, go to the veterans' homes, pick them up, and get them their appointments on time.
We get so much information trying to keep up.
Sorry.
Bear with me.
Yes, sir.
So we have to decide which vehicle we need?
Now,
Yes, sir.
Tom, who's your county service
Yeah.
officer, will let us know how many you usually transport. Because I want to give you, like I have a Transit that carries 12 passengers. If you're only going to carry 3 or 4, you're better equipped to have like the Explorer. And it's
So,
less money.
Tom will make that decision through you guys? Okay, so,
He'll contact us and say, we have this many veterans that are going. I'll contact the hospital, not to validate it, but to
Yeah.
cooperate it. And they'll say, yes, we're having that many veterans come in. And what ends up happening is the ones who are taking the transportation trips, once they find out they do have a ride, that's when Tom, the county service officer, will be able to start filing claims for those veterans that haven't applied yet.
so that process will be started after night, hopefully you figure out how many people we're gonna be doing, and then from there you guys make a decision what vehicle we need, is that correct?
Well, it's
And
a
then from there, we'll
partnership.
decide how much we have to put up, or do we have to do that tonight?
The contract that you have in front of you
Yeah,
gives you a basic idea, and for this county to start out, I doubt you would start out with a transit vehicle. I would expect that on the beginning,
Flex or something to start with.
well, they don't have it anymore, they just continue. The Explorer would be your next one, and that's a 7-passenger.
I'd
we
say start
haven't-
there.
Yeah, and the 7-passenger, you have the price of it in there, but here's where the thing comes in. When Tom calls me, or you all do, and say, we have a fixed number, and I validate it, then I ask you, do you want an Explorer? Yes. I call the hospital, will you accept it if I buy it? Yes. That's when we have the discussion about the funding.
okay.
And ideally, I'd start with the
And what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing,
if later on you find out you have a need for more, you're taking more veterans than what you can accommodate, then you can either start looking at trying to get a second vehicle or trying to get a larger vehicle the next time around.
what I'm seeing here, the full cost for that 7-passenger, $35,780.
Correct.
And then it says department chapter minimum, $19,679. I'm trying to figure out what our part would be.
That 19.
Okay, so if you come back, the numbers come up, and that's what, you'll probably come back saying this is what we need from the county.
Correct.
Okay.
And like I said, some of the counties, because there is so much veteran involvement, because I deployed from 417 Quartermaster up here in Scottsburg when I went to Persian Gulf. So I've been down here most of my life. I moved up there to take this position. But most of the time, once the county makes the initial investment, gets it up and running, that's usually the extent of it, other than maybe the auditor will collect the checks locally for fundraisers and then set that up.
This 19,679 would be something we'd probably have to come up with every 5 to 7 years.
Ideally, you want to do fundraising between.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
5
not
and 7
something you're gonna come in every year and say we need,
No, sir.
No,
okay,
No, sir.
no. The 19,000, like I said, usually covers between 5 to 7 years is usually, because of the distance you're gonna travel, you won't be at the 7-year range, you'll be closer to the 5-year.
and the goal is to fundraisers, have enough for
Yes,
that 5 to 7 year, come up, the money's in place.
Right, and that's.
And the
that's
county
where-
service officer does
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and the
Okay.
county service officer needs to work with the veteran service organizations like the American Legion VFW and get buy-in from everybody, because they're the ones that are being assisted.
Okay,
So the goal is everybody work together and make it happen.
so it almost sounds like we can start a feeding program and
Yes,
then,
That it's not one that's gonna consistently come back and have to be redistributed.
okay.
I know, and I think you said a minute ago, you would look at somewhere maybe around 7 volunteers for drivers, is that right?
Ideally, I have one county that has 2 drivers. I have other counties that have 10 drivers.
And that was
I mean,
one
so
question.
ideal scenario is about
Hard
7. Yeah.
And that would be up to us at all times to make sure we had the
No.
drivers.
No, sir.
No, you won't
My
do that.
job is to recruit volunteers.
And mine is like with Jim will run, he'll get with the county service officer, and the service officer will say, I got 3 drivers, and they're snowbirds. So they may go to Florida for half the year. We'll write up an ad, the newspapers usually print them for free, and what it does is we're asking for other veterans or retired people who have the extra time that want to donate just to drive. And they enjoy it because they're meeting other people, and all their responsibility is to get the vehicle and pick up people and drop them off, so there's no strenuous part to it. All their training's paid for, and
I do all the training myself with the drivers, the volunteers. I have to do their background check. I have them meet our doctor to do the physicals. I get the badges issued, all that stuff that comes through my office. Part of what I do too is I go out and I talk to the American Legions and VFWs and try to recruit drivers. So try to get people to come down and who are willing to volunteer their time. So that's the commitment I can make as far as what we do, running the program. I mean, that's,
And also, I think you mentioned that you have a fundraising program that you try to kick off to raise this amount of money.
Mhm.
And so, you know, $19,679 is what I think we're looking at there. So if we raise 10,000, you guys raise 10,000, how's that work? I mean, is that something that you're going to
I mean,
Well,
start these programs or try to get?
ideally, if you guys can do the initial startup, then the goal is get that first vehicle going. And as the veterans are being serviced, then they're gonna see the value of the program. They're gonna help, the service organizations in the county are gonna start doing the fundraising to support the next vehicle.
Okay, and my next question is I've heard you say that you order it in the fall or whatever, and it comes in June or whatever. So at this point right now, if we want to get this up and going, how long would it take to get this up and moving?
Okay, so to get the initial vehicle, of course, takes a little bit of time. Currently, Harrison County has one vehicle, and one is on the way, it should be here, when did you see that, be here?
April.
In April, okay. They have a need for two vehicles. I have a vehicle that I have loaned Harrison County that they're using, so they have two vehicles right now. Once they get that second vehicle that's coming in April, I can take that loaned vehicle back from them, and if you guys do this and we're waiting on another vehicle, I'll probably loan the vehicle to you all until we get your vehicle.
What,
That would be my
So
plan.
start to finish, what's the process? The length of time?
When is it?
here's an example, Fayette County, which is northern part, they went to their community foundation and got 50% of the funding asked for from them, and they asked the county council for the other 50%. Once the order is placed, I have to place my order to the national organization by November 1st. November 1st, the order gets put, they start assembling the components in January. By March, they're completed. Detroit starts shipping them out to the organizations, anybody that has a fleet account. Once we get them, we wrap them, we put all the decals and on it, the sponsorship, so then that's why it takes from
So you're
till June to get it.
talking next year, project of next year.
Yeah. But
In the
if your
meantime-
county service officer starts working the fundraising now, and let's say you get drivers that are on board in the next 6 months,
Right.
if they give you the loaner vehicle, you could have a transportation network up and running in 6 months with the loaner vehicle until, you know, one can be purchased for your community.
And you and our VA officer would pick the drivers, right?
Well,
Volunteers.
volunteers trying to.
And I assume you'd have something, and I don't want to, you make sure you had good drivers.
Yes, sir, we do a background check on them and everything.
They have to come in the door with personal insurance, so we know that they have the
They have to
base.
show proof of insurability, but once they're in the vehicle, they're covered by our insurance. But
You
they have
gotta
to show
go
proof
solve
of
the
insurance.
process to make sure you got
Yes, sir.
somebody.
The federal government's been utilizing the process now for many years, and it's been quite, since '87, and it's been really effective. Getting it off the ground is always the hard part. It's the initial expense and you know, the, I guess, sticker shock. But when you're considering buying a brand new vehicle that's gonna last 5 years and you have 19,000 invested in it, and you don't have any maintenance, any fuel, any of that expense, it's a minimal expense, but it is an expense.
Any other veterans.
Yeah,
That's a goal.
and then I write a grant to try to get the other half of that money. In the case that if the grant does not come through, which has happened in different states, it's never happened in Indiana yet, but if the grant doesn't come through, the department can also try to do the support to it as well. But even still, let's say you put the money and something happens and we can't get the rest of the funding, the money is still there. It can still be returned to the county with a simple letter saying, send us back our money. So far, 6 years, I've never had to return a dime.
I know that we've talked about this in the past, but I know there's a need here in Scott County for, I know they've been taking the personal vehicles, we talked about that, liabilities. So I'm would be for that. I don't have a problem with this, and I think I'd like to see us get started before another year goes
Well, I
by.
would too.
I'd love to see that get started, you know. and-
I would too, because that gives me a good base of what your need actually is with the loaner bid.
Right.
You know,
Well, you see, that's why I was asking those numbers, because, is there, I know there's a lot of vets there, but I mean, is the need there, is what where I'm getting at.
It is.
And you can say it is, but I mean, how many people are actually needing that transportation, so.
A good way to gauge it, right here in your own community, go over to the Scott County Clinic and talk to the head nurse there of how many visits just to your clinic alone gets. And that's usually only 20% of what the county is utilizing, because they're just a primary care. Right, they're just primary care. So most of the big stuff has to be done at Louisville. So if you look at 20% of just what your own county produces here locally, that gives you a good baseline.
And give you another idea too is, I don't know if you're familiar with the term no-show rate. Basically where you have appointments scheduled, what percentage of people don't show up for their appointments. Our goal at the VA is to try to have a less than 10% no-show rate. That number has continuously increased, it's over 12% now. So there's at least 12% of the veterans not getting to their appointments. Why are they not getting there? A lot of it is transportation.
It sounds to me like you need us to say, yes, we'd like to get the program started. And then we would have to pass it down to council, is that correct?
Because there's a funding issue,
Yeah.
and where would they pull the funds from? Is there money available this year? Is it gonna be a 2021 budget consideration to appropriate so much, then try to fundraise in between years so we can close that gap? So there's the council meets March the 10th, it's the second Tuesday of the month,
You know what
9:30 in the morning.
But also
Yeah.
on that too.
9:30.
I would also think that on that, when I'm hearing you would place the order prior to November. So, I mean, there's a possibility that they could raise the full amount through donations,
Right.
correct?
Ideally, you know, if you can get your service officer or some of the, maybe not necessarily the service officer, but some of the county service organizations to start doing some fundraising now, or talk to some of the local businesses and see if any of them would want to contribute, then yeah, you can alleviate the entire amount, hopefully.
But your county service officer works for you. When they call me, because Tom, I thought was gonna be here for this, when they call me and say, hey, we're ready to move forward with this, then I usually tell them of good sponsors in the area. We help them make the connection, because I'm the state adjutant of the DAV. I also work with the state adjutant of the VFW and the American Legion. We also have in Scott County, chapter 63 that meets at the VFW. So once that all starts working, usually we'll get the draft letter for that county service officer representing the county to go to these vendors and say, this is what we're doing, and we'd like to know if you will help. And a lot of times the counties doesn't have to put up anything, because you have a window. But I have some counties that wait till September to contact me and say, we want a van in June, and it doesn't leave enough time to really generate. But the community foundations have been, just like in Washington County, they helped out with 50% of theirs. So if different organizations take a small bite, by the time you're done, you've got a complete entree. And it's however much work you allow the county service officer to have, to be able to do the fundraising. And of course, it's all tax deductible because it goes to the DAV, who's a 501c3, C4 nonprofit.
Now, going back to what you said, I just want to clarify a couple things here. One is that you made a comment earlier that these vehicles have to do so many miles or so many trips, correct? What, I guess, what happens and if we raise the money, purchase the van, and maybe it's not being utilized in Scott County
So,
as much as it should be, then what happens there?
guess where that loaner vehicle come from? The county was not utilized. That's where my loaner vehicle came from.
That van will still go to transport the
I'm
vet.
gonna
It may not be
guess
in
the
your
VA
county.
officer wasn't doing very like that.
Well, currently the service officer in that county, I haven't heard from them. They haven't talked to me. The drivers that I had, just, they weren't able to drive. One of them have some health conditions and so on, but we've got no support from that county right now, so, you know, the program was running for a few years. I just took over the program at the VA, last March, so. When I took it over, there was one driver and then he's not there anymore.
So the question that, Bob brought up a good question there. If we're paying in 40 to 50% of the van, if we got the grant, and you're saying that if we don't utilize it enough, you're gonna pull the van, I mean,
Well,
so,
before that was pulled though, it was coordinated with him and the county. To let them know.
We don't want that
this
van leaving the
vehicle.
county either.
well, I mean, I
We're
don't
gonna hold
wanna
this
get
vehicle
invested here,
till
and then
we
all of
get
a sudden,
Support drivers.
and that's part of the
Right.
initial question I had was, is it gonna be utilized, and how do you know that there's X amount of people gonna utilize it? And, I mean, I'm not saying that they're not, and they may be overwhelmed.
And the thing is, allowing you to utilize that vehicle as a loaner between now and the time, come November or whatever, we should see some utilization.
And if you're not needing it, I'm not
Right, we're not
investing 50% into your vehicle
Right.
if you're not utilizing the one that you get as a loaner, because it's coming out of me for the next half. But this is where working with your county service officer and say, what is our need? What impact do you feel this is having? Because they reached out to us to say, will you help us get it going? And we've done enough of them to where we can do that.
So again, our service officer reached out to
Well,
you.
the way it all started is, about a month ago, I went to Jefferson County to meet with the service officer and my coordinator there, just doing the checkup, you know, hey, what can I do to help, you know, you got any events coming up you need me to come and talk to them about, you know, or any fundraising events that I can help with. Then I went to Washington County, met with my service officer and coordinator over there, and then I stopped by here to introduce myself to your all service officer. That's when I met you and both service officers, and explained to them how the program works in those counties, and they're like, man, we'd love to have that here. I said, well, tell me what I can do, and so this is where we're at.
Just my feeling is that we won't know how successful it is till we try it. I think it's gonna be successful, and I think we'll look at it and give it a shot.
You don't have an investment until November,
Yeah,
so you've got plenty of time to gauge.
I think the cheap investment that will help.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly on the roll with him here. If that's something that needs there, we'll know that. Yeah. I think, you know.
Thanks, sir.
That's the understanding between the VA and the DAB. That describes the basic rules of their responsibilities and our responsibilities. It's very important that if the investment, they got one, the investment is made, as I want that van to stay in this county. And if your contributors are donating to the DAB, they anticipate that van's gonna be in the county. So it's better for everybody if we make sure the need is here, it's being utilized with the loaner vehicle before you get vested in.
And, you know, we'll need a motion on it. Again, so that we, I guess, just clarification, is once that we would agree to do this, based on the fact that we need to raise the money. And we would certainly need to, probably you need to go before the council. Again, hopefully we can raise this through donations, where we wouldn't have to call upon the council for that. But again, that is the donation side of it, you're gonna work on yourselves, correct? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
And that's what I understand.
But it has to be coordinated with your permission in your county. And it's gotta be done with your county service officer,
We
because
can't, we don't wanna come in and say,
Yeah, I
we're raising
understand.
money for Scott County's DAV,
Yeah.
the county doesn't know anything about
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
it.
I'm okay with that.
And,
And I think
Of course, I-
probably, I mean, given it, what I'm looking at here as far as the numbers, I think we have to have a number, and I think probably that, Ford Explorer package deal, the 7-passenger, I think would be probably what we'd be looking at. And that's, $20,000 vehicle on our part, 19,679.
if you contacted, say, Washington County, to their commissioners there, they can, because they've been doing this enough times where, you know, they can give you any insight. But the program is really effective, and it's meant to take some of the burden off, but also to get the veterans in your community the service and care that they deserve from their time there.
And that's almost 20,000, sounds like a lot, but you put that down over 5 years or 6
It's
or
not a lot.
7, we're talking less than 5,000 a year.
Correct.
I think,
And my job is I gotta start recruiting volunteers, you know, to try to get your hours. So,
I don't think you'll have a problem.
Yeah, your 20,000 investment, mine's 150, because I take them from all the counties. So I try to get the grant from our other half, so it's very important for me for this program to work here as well, in order for me to make sure I'm utilizing our dollars.
and every time one of those veterans goes to a hospital, that's federal government putting money in, back into them, so there's more money that we're probably not realizing now because we're not transporting, because people aren't getting visits.
Mhm.
And just to give you an example, as a service-connected veteran, if I drive from here to the VA hospital, they're paying me 42 cents a mile to drive myself to and back from the hospital. Okay? If we're taking that, the government's not paying.
Right.
But we're paying for the maintenance and fuel and all that stuff in the vehicle. But if I can take 5 people at one time versus one person,
Volume.
you know, it comes out better for everybody involved.
Where before you'd be paying 42 cents a mile for one
Per
person
person.
several times. so-
And you have the traffic and the parking and
And
everything.
like local business and stuff, that's all tax deductible for them, so they make a donation to it,
Yes,
just
sir.
do something.
Exactly.
And that's my job, to give them the tax information and the voucher to show that, you know, it went to a 501c3 organization.
Okay. What's your pleasure, Jim?
My pleasure to vote for it. I mean, I'm ready to move on it. I don't mean that to, I don't need to do something.
Mike, you got any?
No, I
Yeah.
was concerned about the use and
Yeah.
also when you made a comment about taking it back, I don't want to get
Here's
invested.
one of
That's
the
a
other
last
things.
resort.
I
Here's
don't
one of the
want
things
to
that's
get
very
invested
important.
here someplace and somebody said, well, what happened to that van? Well, they took it back, so, and I don't want that.
In some of my other counties, utilization means you have so many trips or so many miles. If that county service officer doesn't have anybody going to Louisville, but if they have veterans in the county that need to come to his office, that's a trip. That counts. If that van has to go in for service, that's a trip. That counts.
All change.
Yeah, oil change.
Well,
So there's things built in it to protect you in your investment.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, if we can, I think it's a drop in the bucket of other money, so.
All right, I heard John make the motion.
I made a motion.
I heard
I'll
you
second.
second. I'll make that unanimous, and,
So we'll have to take it to the council.
yeah, that it will go to the council for funding, and I do, believe in that, and I'll certainly, make a donation myself to that,
Thanks, sir.
and, I'll, you know, I'll
A lot of times you'll find that your National Guard unit here and your Army Reserve unit, the members of those units will be participating in this program as well. And once they start getting active in it, their treatment and care improves, and they become better.
So we'll need to get them on the agenda for the council March 10th, is that
If
correct?
that was for you or able, would be, I guess the ideal thing is that you'll start this fundraising situation through the county CBSO, and then you'll move from there, and then we'll kind of be able to maybe close that gap, and then budget time, council can maybe.
You may not even have any investment in it,
Okay.
because the organizations have been phenomenal, especially because the dollar amount is attainable, you
Yes,
know.
it's not a lofty goal.
So, you know, you may not have any financial responsibility, but he's still your all's employee, so there becomes that, you know, responsibility of employment.
All right, so at that point, do we need a signature on any of this anywhere?
No, that's all your
That's all we
information,
got?
and then come
All right.
November, that's when I'll need pen to paper.
And,
Does anybody want me to put my phone number or name?
Yes, please, give me your name and telephone number, and I'm gonna keep that one here. Yeah, you can put it on the back of his if you like. And I will say this, whether or not, and I think I will be right, I strongly believe that we will have to get the money through the council. I think they've been donations here in this county to raise the money for the thing, for the first portion of it.
I think you can find support within Clark County as well, because what some of the other counties have done, like in Washington County, people have to pass through Clark to get there. So a lot of times funding is raised there in Clark County as well to support your van, as long as your driver will stop, pick them up on the way, because it's not out of the way.
Thanks, sir.
And that fund gets, now it's spread to 2 counties instead of just one, and in some cases 3. Because there's also a clinic in New Albany.
Yeah, I think the money will be raised without having to go through the council, but we want to make 100% sure that we're going to have the funding, so we'll run it through the council. But Scott County is a very giving community.
Yes, I know when we deployed you were.
And when there's a need, they seem to rise above it, even though that our status, always amazed me that in Scott County, our status is maybe one of the poor counties in the state, but yet they'll raise above all others when it comes to a need.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
this
this
is,
year,
and for the veterans, I think the needs there, and I think they'll raise to the top on this, is what I think, so.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
With me, sir.
All right,
We'll
we're
go
going
back to Tom.
to, thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break right here, if you,
Thank you, sir.
and then we'll come right back. How's that? All right, with a little change in the agenda here, we are going to move up the surrounding county judicial tour report, and
You guys want to come on first?
come on up, judges.
Thanks for moving us up. We won't take long, and it's been a long day for all of us, and we're worn pretty thin, to be honest with you. We started here at 8:15 this morning and kind of took a look at our own facilities. John was with us, Donnie, Marcia, Judge Frazier, the recorder went with us, prosecutor, public defender, Ivy Dazaway. So we had 2 council members and a commissioner. I appreciate everybody's time. It was a long day and a lot of time to dedicate to the effort. We started out here, toured our facilities here. If you haven't been on the 2nd floor recently, I'm going to send another invitation out. We spent 45 minutes looking around upstairs, and I'm going to do that as many times as I have to do it to get all the commissioners and all the council members to spend a few minutes with me upstairs seeing what we're dealing with. So you'll be getting an invitation to come upstairs and take a look at what we've got. We started out at Jackson County, which, again, what I'm going to say, which I've said all day, I'm not asking for a new building, but they have a new building. It's very, very nice. What they decided to do is build a judicial center across the street from the courthouse. Very nice for their 3 courts, secure space for inmates, which we don't have, private space for attorneys to meet, which we don't have, ample room for staff and expansion to staff, which we don't have. And each of the judicial officers have their own office, which we don't have. Extra hearing space for all their officers. The problem we have here right now, and I know there's movement, and I appreciate the movement. It's a great boon to have the position of the magistrate. It's been a great help, but we're bottlenecked at the bench. We have 2 courtrooms, 2 hearing spaces. We use this space when we can for what we can. It's not always available. It's not the most convenient setup, obviously, and it's always temporary. We appreciate using this space, but right now we're bottlenecked at the court, at the bench, and also Judge Frazier actually is sharing my office with me right now. So
And phone.
And my phone, yeah. So she is in my office using, in the same space. So a lot of impracticalities about what we've got. In a nutshell, what we learned is, and like I've always talked about, there's the short term, there's the midterm, there's the long term solution. The short term solution right now is Judge Frazier's in my office and we're using this room when we can, and that's fine. Midterm solutions, there's a lot of things we could talk about. Long-term solutions, all three of these counties have separated the judicial offices, that being the court, the clerk, the prosecutor, and probation, from the property offices, that being the assessor, the auditor, the treasurer, and the recorder. So I think long-term, that's something we need to consider. in where we go. But security, obviously, we learned an awful lot about security going from place to place. I appreciate the movement we've gotten on security here. But I guess what I would say here, and then I'll let the others who went on the tour have any comment they want. New building in Jackson County, which was by far the best facility we saw today. Then we went to Washington County, new building in Washington County. Both Jackson and Washington County for the last 25 years have had courts that were miles apart from each other. The Washington Circuit Court was in the courthouse, the Superior Court was at the jail. Now they are together. The Jackson Superior Court was in Seymour, all the other courts were in Brownstown. Now they're all in Brownstown. So any long-term solution we have, we need to have all three of our courts as close together along. All three facilities have the prosecutor's office in the building or within walking distance, probation in the building or within walking distance, and the clerk in the building. We went to Washington County, great, nice new facility there, secure place for inmates, secure place for attorney meetings, extra hearing rooms. And then we went to Clark County. And the reason I wanted to go to Clark County was because, as we are, Clark County is busting at the seams. We like to think that Clark has a lot of resources we don't have. Actually, I think in a lot of ways, we're a little bit better off than what Clark's got right now. But busting at the seams, and what they're looking to do, they've got a bill in front of the legislature right now to create actually two new courts that would bring them to 10 judicial officers. And so they're looking at moving the property offices out of the city county building, which I think is probably what's going to happen. What we need on the midterm, I should say, is we need a permanent hearing space, and we need an officer for a magistrate, and we need support staff space for that person. It needs to be as close to this building, if not in this building, as possible. I know there are some options right now that everybody's talking about with Mr. Dietrich's building, which I think is a great option. I know McLean's building is available. I know we got the church property over here. We've got a lot of things, the jail basement. I know a lot of things are talked about. The only thing I'm going to ask is, before we get too far down the road of making decisions or writing checks or moving people around, come talk to the people who are going to use the space. Let us have some input on what you're going to do and how you're going to use it, because we have a lot of suggestions on the best way to use it. So, but I don't know if anybody else has anything.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is, these facilities were, Jackson County and Washington County is so impressive. And Clark County, we work down there a lot anyway. We're down there probably almost weekly, serving those courtrooms. So we had been there before. But it was one of the counties, was it Washington, I think, put together a list of pros and cons of the way they've done their courtrooms. And so they were able to go through with us today a lot of things maybe they did wrong, pointers they would have. So I agree with Jason that we would need a lot of input in that. It's very important in a courtroom to be able to see your witness stand from the bench and to know where your attorneys are positioned, and there's a lot of security issues, so we would want to be very involved in that. But even though the first two facilities were so impressive, even going to Clark County, what we learned and already knew was that we are way too crushed upstairs. Even in Clark County, they're under some construction now. They have 4 judges currently. Each judge has a magistrate. The judges have, I think, 5 staff members, court reporters under them. Each magistrate under the judge has 2 court reporters. They have so much more staff than we do, but also they all still have their space. So nobody's crammed up where they're sharing an office, they're handing phones across to let another judge use their phone where they're sharing phones. They all have their own space. Every magistrate had their own courtroom. They had office staff back behind the courtrooms for the court reporters.
And extra hearing space for sure.
Extra hearing space. So when Jason and I go down and we have to handle a senior judge case down there, we're not standing around waiting for a courtroom to use. They have extra courtrooms for that, meeting rooms. So even Clark County, because they're still working on some
and just
construction,
to add
still has
on the staff thing, the staff issue is a total separate issue, but what we learned on average was that all the courts we went to, that each judicial officer is averaging about 4.7 staff. We're averaging 2.3 on staff, which is a problem, but the bigger problem is if you gave me 2 more staff people, I don't have any place to put them.
Yeah.
I got no place to put them. So I'm not even asking for staff right now because I can't use it.
Because you'd have 3 people using your
I'd have
phone
3
on your
people.
desk.
Yeah, so, anyway, I'll try to put together a little email and send everybody kind of what I feel like we've learned. And again, I'm going to invite Mr. Jones and Mr. Bias has been out, but I'm going to invite you along with the rest of the commission or council people to come take a look I don't want to take any more of your time, but I don't know if you have anything you want to add from what you saw or learned today, and let John.
I was so glad Donnie and Ivan and John were
It
there,
was great to
because
have
unless
them.
you see that, you just don't know how,
Different.
we don't have what we need, yeah. We don't have what we need, and we went to 3 close counties, and they pretty much have what they need to operate the courts, so we don't.
What I saw was Jackson County and the other 2 are just like, you don't even wanna go there, because Jackson County is.
We all said, well, back to work tomorrow. But,
Well, I mean, it was,
we have
a difference between, it was night and day, it was just so much obvious.
Look, what kind of, and I apologize, but I actually was in Salem Monday and had a tooth cut out, so I've not been going to many places for the last couple of days, so, anyway, but what about, your, I guess, work caseload versus Jackson counties versus Washington versus Clark? I mean, and I hear you say like, they basically, and maybe I misunderstood, but did I understand you said it's like 4.3 people a day? And
Staff people.
Staff.
Yeah.
Now, is there caseloads, I mean, that much
Well,
more?
generally, I can get those statistics, I don't have them ready now. I would say anecdotally, I would bet that we're doing more work than those courts. You know, we got our magistrate, we were happy to get our magistrate. And then I got a call about 6 months ago, I got a call from state court administration because they heard a rumor that maybe we were gonna ask for a second magistrate. And I said, oh, no, we're not asking for that. And they said, oh, well, we looked at the numbers and it wouldn't have been ridiculous if you were. I'll look at those numbers and see, but I think we're gonna be way behind on that.
Was there any, for any of you, and Don, you said, I'm sure you probably asked this question, what kind of investment have they, as far as?
I can tell you the Jackson County building, which is a brand new separate state-of-the-art judicial center across the street from the courthouse, was $13 million. I am not down here asking for $13 million.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm asking for a hearing room and an office for a magistrate and a room for staff.
And we did ask in those other
Yeah.
counties, I don't think they were prepared for
Washington, they
that.
didn't really
The
know. I can
numbers.
get the Washington number, but they didn't really know. We were very graciously hosted everywhere we went. I know there was a remodel project in Clark that was $200,000 to remodel some space to create 2 magistrate courtrooms, but they had to do a ton of renovation in that concrete building that's been there for 60
And
years.
you're right, Clark County, it's,
They're
I know
building
we had
now.
a hallway there probably, 30 yards long?
Yeah.
And I bet there were 50
Out in the hall.
people waiting to go to court, just sitting in the hallways.
Laying.
Laying in the
Which we
hallway.
get that here a lot. I
We
mean,
do.
you wanna
Yeah,
see what
but
it's
I-
like, come up on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or
Yeah.
Friday upstairs.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday for my court.
I mean, they weren't moving.
No.
We was there hour and a
Yeah,
half.
we're there about an
The same
hour.
people was still in the bed moving in.
On a busy day upstairs, they'll be there 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I take, but in my court, we have, I would say just about every 4 days a week, we have 50 to 60 different criminal defendants. About 30% of those are in custody, about 60% of those are coming off the street, 70% of them coming off the street. And what I'll do is I'll take the bench at 9 o'clock and I'll say, look, I know you guys are here, I'm here, I wanna go to lunch, you wanna go to lunch. The attorneys can only talk to one person at a time, please be patient. If you haven't heard from somebody by 10:30, come check in, and we'll do the best we can to get you out. But, you know, if I had extra space where myself and Judge Frazier could be doing things concurrently, those numbers all go right. Because right now I'm sitting in my office waiting on her, she's sitting in my office waiting on me.
And a lot of the things about the construction of the buildings too, helped with security.
Yeah, security.
I think the court staffs, the judges, the employees, there were different entrances for them than the rest of the public, in general. And there were kind of hallways back behind the court offices where court staff could travel from one court to another without going out among the people that they just probably made mad in a hearing. And so there were a lot of better
And
security.
a lot of those, you know, and, I mean, like it's long-term plan, do we need to look at, you know, what a long-term plan would look like and whether offices need to be moved. What I would say is I'm happy to talk about any option, but to me, the courthouse is where the courts should be. And so I'm not asking for a $13 million judicial center. I really feel like the courts ought to be in the courthouse. Does that mean we've got to look at some alternative space for some other administrations? I understand that, but to me, the courts need to be in the courthouse. So, but that's how, but I'm willing to talk about anyhow. And right now, I just want a table and a recorder and a phone for Judge Frazier.
And they showed us all the commissioner
Yeah.
and council space in most of the
Yeah.
places as well. They were not in the main judicial centers, they were out with the rest of the property offices.
I don't want to take any, I know.
And there's a lot of noise in court, about 2 hours in court, in the courtroom yesterday. We got an attorney over here with his client, attorney over here with their client. And Judge Frazier, she's on the bench trying to.
I'm down here at the same time doing hearing down here.
Yeah, and everything's like, she has to look up and look over here to hear all this noise. Meeting rooms on, for the attorneys to take their clients back into a separate place, a jury room.
Jury room, yeah.
I mean,
We kind of had a fetish today on checking out jury rooms that actually have bathrooms for the jurors in the jury room. That's, 21st century convenience, but it would sure be nice. And there may be ways we could reconfigure upstairs to actually make that happen.
You had mentioned a few minutes ago that we need to talk to you, make sure we know.
We know where we're going, what we're doing.
I don't know where we're going.
I know, nobody does.
One thing I've been looking at is trying to find the space, and
Right,
and
and then-
when I talk to council, they say, what's your plan? Well, space right now, and we honestly don't know who's gonna be moved where.
No, absolutely not.
And so, I think what I'm getting here is, I think you need more space here, we know that.
Yeah.
But we're not sure who's gonna be moved. We think we kinda got an idea.
I know, I got
And I think that word gets out to different offices,
it. Right.
and then,
There's no decisions been made, and I'm not
That's
asking
right,
for
and,
anybody at this
so-
point, but, and to that effort, John, and that I've talked about before, is maybe we need a small committee with a couple council people, a commissioner, the judicial officers, maybe the prosecutor, and whoever else wants to be part of it, the elected officers, meet once a month or once a quarter if it's still not resolved, and say, hey, here's our options, how can we use this space?
I guess the bottom line too, what I'd like to end with is just that there was no place that we visited today, Jackson County, Washington County, Clark County, that was as smashed in like sardines as like we are. Not just the courts, but prosecutor's office as well. Prosecutor's office may be in worse shape than we are.
Prosecutor's office.
But
with Chris
we
with
found no
services.
place today that looked like we look on the top floor here at this courthouse. Not even close. So,
Anything else, Don?
not for me.
John?
you're okay with, if we look at the, Dietrich building?
There's no reason not to look at
And then
buildings.
figure out where
We
we're
can
gonna
figure out
move.
who's gonna go or what's gonna happen, or, like I said, I think it's, we need all the courts as close together as possible. The prosecutor's office and the probation department and the clerk's office all need to be as close together as possible.
Yeah,
And
we
that's-
could move some out, get over there, and then you could readjust.
Readjust, you can move things temporarily, figure out it doesn't work, and we can move things around again. So, there's a lot of things that could happen. But anyway, that's all I got. So,
Good trip.
yeah, it was. It was a
Very eye-opening.
it was a very good trip.
I do know that, I will say this, I do know that we are looking, and, look at the Dietrich building, we own the old John Jones building, again, to do anything out there, we'll compare the cost to see what we need to do, but, we will try to alleviate
Yep.
the,
And the other thing, if I had a punch list of things that I'd like to see as quickly as possible. Alternate hearing space, office for the judge, room for her staff. And then holding area and meeting rooms for attorneys. And like I've shown the two of you, that space behind the elevator where Veterans Affairs is. We think right now, we've talked a lot about veterans today. What does a veteran have to do to get to Veterans Affairs? Well, he has to find a space on the courthouse to park. He has to walk 50 to 60 yards to get in the building. He has to go up the stairs or up the elevator, and he has to sit in the hallway until Tom's ready to talk to him. Now, if we move that administration closer to the hospital, closer to the VA, closer to the health department, ample parking, first floor, don't have to go up an elevator. That gives us half that space very quickly. Could be used for a public defender's office or a meeting space for attorneys. 40, which is part of the prosecutor's administration, if we, that's a little bit bigger of a problem, but we could turn the 40 office into a holding area for inmates where attorneys could meet with their clients in the holding area and not in the courtroom while we're trying to have hearings. So.
And the inmates there at all these facilities did not just come through the public hallways where the, you
No.
know, they came in through back,
And
like
were held
boards
in-
and held in
areas.
holding cells, or one of, Washington County, I think called the bullpen.
Bullpen,
They
yeah.
were held in certain areas where they weren't interacting with the public.
And what I did too today is each courthouse did security
Different.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
A little bit different, so, of course, everybody had to pick what worked for them.
Yeah. And I'm pleased with what we got going on here, and I'm glad to see it, and it's nice. I will say, one thing that I didn't expect that I did learn today was, I know there's talk about whether we need 3 officers here. I would say that I learned that every courthouse has at least 3, has at least 1 officer at the door and at least 1 officer on each floor at all times.
Yeah, they made it.
Yeah. So I think what we have is right. I think the manpower, I think, is correct here.
When you said on each floor, they were on each floor that there were courts.
That there were courts.
They were really stationed around the courts. Where they've separated the property offices off, they don't have security. I think that's what we learned, for sure. So the security was there for the courts.
Very good. So, thank you guys very much. I know we're working on it, and I appreciate everything everybody's doing. I just don't want us to get 4 steps down a path, and then somebody call us and we say, well, that ain't gonna work, and there's 6 reasons why.
Well, I
So,
think Clark County did also add that they had given, 2 years' notice that
Yeah.
they were gonna get these new magistrates. And once they got their magistrates, I think they would have gotten them in July. I think by November, they had their space.
Yeah.
So they acted like that was a huge inconvenience for them to be that 4-month period, whatever that is, between July and November, without courtroom space. But we are gonna be in July going on a year now.
Yeah.
So,
All right. So thank you guys very much. We'll follow up.
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Health Department update.
We make this very short. I'm always against the clock to be home by bedtime. Okay, so I've given Tammy some dates to set our SSP renewal, because to prevent a really long, regular session meeting. So I have Monday, March 16th, Monday, March 30th, Tuesday, March 31st, Monday, April 6th, or Tuesday, April 7th.
This is for which, the needle thing?
Yes. Monday?
So what was your dates again, sorry?
It's okay. March 16th, Monday, March 30th, Monday, Tuesday the 31st, Monday, April 6th, or Tuesday, April 7th. And that's taken out like spring break, regular meetings. We have some mandatory conferences that we have to attend. So, and then we have to do it before May.
What time of the day are we talking?
I figured you guys would want to have it at 5, but we're open to that.
Any of those dates are good for me.
And I think the evening would be better too, because there's another trial, and they've already asked us for 2 weeks straight in this room. And I'm gonna have to do a counselor report.
Yeah, I'm good.
Any of them? Okay,
I'll make it work.
I will, reach out to the state, make sure all those work for them, and then, because I know we always want them here too, so I'll get with Tammy and we'll set that also. I'm asking for you guys to create an ordinance for us to deposit donations, to be used for operation supplies and equipment. This is per, I guess, advisement of the State Board of Accounts. I based it off of the ordinance that we have for the K-9, when people donate things to the sheriff's department for the K-9. I have a check from December where Brittany went to Aflac and did some training for them, and they give us a $100 donation check, so. Yeah. Yeah, and so that just creates the fund, a non-reverting fund for us to deposit into. That's the kind of, you guys have to create it, and then the council will.
You bring the money and give the word, and you,
Yes, and it gets deposited in that fund, and then council has to.
now you're able to use, have you?
Yes.
Good idea.
this fund ordinance to where she can place monies that's been donated or whatever. Do I hear a motion on it?
I'll make
Second?
And then I have a request for out-of-state travel for the week of April 13th through the 15th. For some of my staff members to go to Nashville, Tennessee for the Prescription Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit. A grant pays for transportation, hotels, tickets, per diem, but since it's out of state, you guys have to do that.
So it's paid for.
What is it, a conference or what?
It's a conference.
Will they be driving?
Yeah, they
Will
will.
they drive one of our county vehicles?
Yeah, they'll probably take the Equinox, because there's 4 of them going, so that should cover it.
Is any of them presenting at this conference?
They're not, no.
I'm good with
Motion, I'll second.
Unanimous.
And then I have some claims that need special approval. One for the Indiana Vector Control. I think it's like a $40 discount if we can pay it before March 1st. And then this one is for our EMR services that you guys approved the contract for last time. They just have a 10-day turnaround for the deposit, so.
I've got the originals over here.
Vector, is that the key?
Yeah, Vector Control is good.
You just had that one. Here's the
Yep.
original on the back.
All right, Vector was a $115 claim here. Again, they say $40 if they pay before the first, and the other one is to Athena Health, is that what that is? And that's an amount of $650, is that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
$650.
That's our new EMR system. You guys approved the contract for that last session, and so this is the deposit. And they just require a 10-day turnaround, which would, and since it's not considered an urgent claim, I need special approval.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Is that for both one?
Yes.
And
Tammy, do you need the electronic version of this ordinance?
do you need these?
Tammy will do those, yes.
Okay.
And I think that's it, unless you guys have anything.
I'll have to give it.
Okay, that's fine.
Get home, go to sleep.
It's not my bed. I don't go to bed at 8 o'clock. That's when I get all my stuff done for the day. Thank you, guys.
Highway update.
I'm gonna ask for Jack Walter to come in real quick.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, gentlemen. This is our Jack Walter, United Consulting. This is our annual inventory report. This is the second phase. This is, we used to pass out these books to everybody, get one of these, but now we don't do it. Well, if you want one, we can get you one. We've got these flash drives for everybody. You guys can, that's the exact same report, put it in there.
Oh, you got one for it.
Yeah, there you go. This is a very abbreviated report, makes it a lot easier than me sitting here going through all that. I don't know half of it, so, there's it. This is here just a brief summary of all your bridges. And I'm telling you now, I've been doing this 29 years. So we did yours for what, the last however many. Your bridges are in really, really good shape. I'm telling you. I was going through this report, you know, sitting out waiting and looking at where you got posted bridges. You got bridges in these closed. You got this. No,
Good.
they're in great shape. The highway department, you know, we give them, there's a list in there that there's work they can do on some of them, but they've been doing it. I'm telling you, there's a whole list of things they can do. They've been doing it. You can tell. So that is basically my report. You guys Did I say that the way you wanted me to?
Good job. You forgot the raise.
Oh,
God.
Okay.
I thought your ram was up your back.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, that's it. Actually, you're,
So we're not in bad shape then?
oh, no, I'm telling you, no, it is unbelievable, you know, to have, it really, here's how you compare to the, on the back of that, that's how you compare with the rest of the bridges and counties in the state. And I'm telling you, it's really, I'm not kidding, they did a great job. You know, you don't have any fracture critical bridges, you got no scour problems, and, that's it, I'm telling you. So,
Great.
And just so you know, one of these stays downstairs in case we have an emergency, and then one stays down to
We're
Hollywood.
down for.
In the EMA.
and if somebody actually wants to book,
I got a question.
all right,
What's 2 underwater bridges?
the special inspection that we have a sub, I told them I'd get underwater and look at it, but that wouldn't do any good. You have to have a special permit that comes in, and they're a little bit more, but just for 2, that's not too bad. A lot of counties have a lot more than that.
So what you're saying is water's,
I mean, it's just, they're just bigger, they're always, you have to get somebody, you have to get some scuba diver dude to get down there and look around. Or whatever. They will be me. So, anything else?
No.
Have a good evening.
Jack, thank you.
Hey, you bet.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all, y'all have a good
Thank
time.
you.
Road school.
Thank
Take
you.
care. See
Thank
about
you.
you there. See, you guys got her made now. Have a great day.
Yeah, the first thing that I have is the sign inventory. It's just at another phase, and we need your signatures for the contract to be submitted to NDOT. It's a 90-10 participation with the state, so we get 90% back. And it's just putting up informational signs, not road names, informational signs throughout the county. So, and Tammy, you will have to attest as well.
cattle crossing.
90-10, you saying?
Yes, 90.
Motion to sign,
I'll make a motion.
second. One thing I was gonna ask you that, and I didn't realize this until I seen it, they started doing it this week. The construction that took place out on 256, the state is replacing all the
I saw that.
road signs.
I saw that.
And they are actually, they're very easily read, they're bigger than.
Orland Road, you can
Yeah,
see from.
they're bigger signs, I didn't know, I didn't know they was gonna do that, but, I don't know if that means anything, but they are doing it.
Russ, you got.
Is that it? That one I'm plugging in? All three?
Of
All
you
three?
and Tammy.
Oh, well, wait a minute, did I sign? Okay, yeah.
You read when you should have been printing.
Print or type, signature, yeah. What's that look for? I'm gonna fix it, I'm gonna print where I'm supposed to sign. It's fixed. How's that?
The last
I
thing.
won't screw it up.
Thank you.
Don't follow my lead.
The last thing I have is for you all to decide what you want to do about the community crossing grant application. As I told you last meeting, we have a deadline of February the 24th for this to be submitted to the state. So I don't know if you had a chance to talk with Mike or.
I think Bob, didn't you speak to everybody?
My understanding is when we are assuming that you approve the minutes that Tammy has given to you tonight, that those the bid was awarded to Wingham Paving for the community crossings paving contract. So the next step, as I understand it, if that's what you choose to do, my understanding, based on what you've already done, you would enter into a contract or agree to enter into a contract with Wingham. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes,
Do we have a contract with them?
yes.
Okay, so that's the next step for us.
So, I guess just to clarify, we did have a meeting with the other bidder, the lowest bidder, with their attorneys and everything else, and were they to produce some items to us, to somebody else? Did that happen?
I think, well, I know, the state had spoke to the owner, and, because we wanted to make sure that we had the correct paperwork, and she has not received that paperwork yet.
From him?
Correct.
And he was to have gotten back with you about the amount of, help me out here, about the amount of tonnage for
I was hoping that he.
one of the roads we discussed in the meeting.
I was
Did
hoping.
he get back with you about that?
No, I haven't heard from anyone.
Okay.
That's the only questions I have.
So I think the appropriate thing is then to move to accept the contract that Jill's got, that enters into a contract with Wingham.
With the next lowest bidder?
Yeah.
We've already voted on it, right?
You've already voted on, but you haven't signed the contract.
This is a state contract after you.
Yeah.
Do we need a motion to do this?
Yeah, to enter into that contract.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for,
Recommend that.
Yes.
to enter into the contract with Wingham Paving Incorporated. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Unanimous.
Tammy, you have a clean one for them to sign, or you can replace the front page.
I can actually, once they approve that, I can run it off on their little paper and have them sign it tonight. It won't take it, just like.
Okay.
That has to go to the state as well, a copy of those minutes, so we can put a copy in my box. Yes, thank you. That's all I have, if you have anything for me.
One thing, the road counters, we talked about that a while back, and all these roads do. And I went out and chased them down Leone, and it was Brad Greavy, is that his name? Works down.
Steve, what's the
Greavy,
guy
here.
that usually comes in here with River Hills? The younger boy that, what's his name?
Greavy.
Nick Greavy.
Yeah. Well, and I just talked to him, because I was, like, what's going on out there? And the best I could get, he was contracted with the state, and it's kind of like verifying our numbers.
Correct.
But now I'm seeing more of those. Well, they may be gone now, but I saw them on Lake Road and different places. And people are asking me, and I'm assuming it's still Nick Greavy. But it's something they're doing to the state. They're not doing to us at all.
Right.
River Hills has a contract with NDOT to do rural traffic counts.
Okay.
And that's usually done with one or two counties as a focus in the 5-county region of River Hills. So that's Harrison. Well, it doesn't necessarily include some of the urban area that Kipton takes care of, but it's basically Scott, Washington, Harrison counties, and that rotates between those communities on an annual basis. So, for example, this year it may be Scott and Washington. Next year it may be Washington and Harrison, so on and so forth.
I just wish they told us.
They will do it for us for free as well. But sometimes when we pick roads for our community crossing grant, we have to have that count.
Yeah.
And so we can contact them and they'll go out and do so many roads for us for free. I don't know if they don't have to contact us obviously, but maybe you
I mean, I can find out what the, what the status is. We have a board meeting, next Thursday, first board meeting of the year, so.
I understand what they're doing, I wish they said we're gonna be in your county.
Yeah, I would have thought that they would have provided some notification to Jill or somebody saying, hey, we're gonna be putting these out on the roads. Usually that's part of the protocol. I know, obviously I go to the other commissioner meetings a lot too, and I know in the past, usually, he or when Jill was still with us, somebody made reference to the commissioners or to the county engineer or highway department that.
And he may have mentioned it way back when or something, but I don't remember if he did.
Well, and if he did, the thing about it is, it's when it's implemented.
Yeah.
So you're not getting questions when they're not out there, you're getting questions when people start to see them on the road.
I just happened to bump into him, I was on Lee Odie, and people was asking what was going on, I see this guy sitting on the road, who is that? He kind of explained it to me, but then I'm seeing more and more of it.
Yeah, I mean, Steve and we can work on that and get you guys an updated report. The new director, I don't think has been here to your commissioner meeting yet, Corey Cochran. So that's on his priority list too, is to make it around to each stakeholder. And so you'll be seeing him soon. I'm sure he'll work with Tammy to get on the agenda.
Well, I'm actually glad they're doing it.
Yeah. And this is an area too, where from a River Hill standpoint, I think we're wanting to see if there's areas that we can provide extra levels of service on, as something that not only River Hills provides, but that it incentivizes additional utilization of our services. So,
thank you.
Misty?
Yeah.
I work with Mac Construction. I was one of the people that met with Mr. Houston. And then Mike, I don't remember your last name. Jones, that's what I thought. But we were under the impression that any communication until a decision was made was going to be made through our attorney, Brian Wickens, and Mr. Houston. And I know from speaking with Mr. Wickens today that he's tried to contact you every day this week. And that was the main reason no one reached out to Jill or any of the other commissioners, because we were under the impression that all correspondence was going to go through Mr. Houston.
I emailed him yesterday and he got it because he emailed me again today.
But there was no, information on what the resolution or any kind of detailed information is.
No, there wasn't.
As what your decision was or how you're going to handle the protest that was made. I mean, that's a legal document that I would think would need to be vetted.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, I do. Not so much for you, but I am going to say something here. First of all, is Jack Walton, again, handed us a bridge inventory there a minute ago. 73 total bridges here in Scott County. And as he has said, we're very, very lucky, and not so much luck, there's been a lot of work going into this for our bridges to be kept up. And, lots of times we have, in this time of year, I know that potholes in some roads are getting bad. And I do know that we have a plan in place that we're working on that. So I'm going to ask the public to be patient. But when you look at what Scott County has done versus other counties, and you hear the judicial people in here saying some of this too, but when you look what we have done, in the last 5 years, we have blacktopped over a third of our roads, 311 miles of road in Scott County, and we have, at the end of this year, we will have resurfaced 150 miles, over 150 miles of road. Unbelievable, unheard of in any other county. And I think, I just want the people of this community to understand and know that our county highway department is doing a tremendous job. And Jill has been very instrumental in us being able to get that money But not only her, the crew's got to do a good job. And so I'm not just saying this for Jill, I'm saying it for our county highway department. They are second to none, and I certainly appreciate each and every one of them. And I think instead of being so quick to jump over, none of us like potholes, but the sad fact of the thing is there are potholes, and we will get to them. We do have a plan, and a lot of them is going to be taken care of this year. So with some more new surfacing, I think with this contract, again, we've got several miles of road that's going to be done. And I just want to say congratulations to the highway department, and I certainly hope that we continue just what we've been doing.
I'll pass that along, because it's a good report.
Speaking of paving, did you order a paver?
Yes, I did. Yesterday. And we are sometime.
Good. Good.
I'm more excited it's not gonna break down.
Well, we are that as well, but yeah,
So, with that being said, please pass that on.
I will, thank you.
All right. All right, next up,
Never leave more than what you think.
EMS quarterly report and cardiac monitors.
Good evening.
How are you?
All right.
That's why they're not comfortable chairs. What you said it very well.
There's that one. All right, and as well, there's some more stuff for you guys. The second packet I'm handing out here is from Jim Freeman. I talked to him back in December, and some of the requests that you guys had, not really on our last quarterly meeting this year, about looking at 2018's numbers. And when I reported some of the data to you, and you guys were doing the numbers, you said that's kind of way off course from what we were billing, from what we were receiving. So he sent me this for you all to kind of, as a guide for elected officials to understand insurances, Medicare, Medicaid, that type of thing. He said it's been really helpful for people in the past. He sends it out to all his agencies that he represents. So that is for you all to review at your guys' convenience. The first page is simply, I just broke it down to all 4 quarters since we finished out the year. As you said, we kind of finished strong in the 4th quarter with 1,157 runs, which is more than we did all the other 3 quarters combined. With taking that into consideration with 17, 18, and 19, we were down at 18 at 44.32 and finished this year at 45.21. That's all runs, that's all dispatch runs, all times that we've done a run report. That's everything that has came out for us. And then the next page just kind of breaks it down. Per how it was treated and transported, whether it's EOS, ALS, AMA, refused care, that type of thing. At the bottom, this number actually is a lot higher now. I ran these numbers prior to 2 weeks ago's meeting. I met with her, and she said that there was an abundance of stuff on the agenda to go ahead and wait to come to this meeting. So that number is actually almost, last time I checked, it was almost to 6,000. So that we're
On receive?
On SOR, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we received almost 6,000. Of course, the bill number has went up as well as we do runs. So we're looking between 45 to 50% return, which is pretty good in my opinion as far as getting SORs. So I think that program that we put in place July 22nd last year is working. It's supplementing some of those runs that we are not transporting, getting some of supplies, fuel costs for the crew going out there. The next one.
You get any blowback from that?
I had one call from a I don't know what they consider St. James Place. It's one limited income, elderly housing type thing. I had one person call and just kind of question, but never really had any type of blowback, saying that it's outrageous that we're doing this. I don't know. I've not heard from you guys if anybody has contacted you or anything.
That's what I was asking.
No,
So I mean, I think it's been received pretty well, and I think it's working. The last Excel spreadsheet there I did, just kind of summed this up with our deposits for 2019. Some of the early on deposits are stuff probably from 2018 that came rolling in as insurance is paid. We received last year $1.262 and $479.53 is what we brought in. I kind of don't know the overall what we billed. I could essentially get that number for you if you.
Where you at on that thing?
At the very bottom, I broke it down into the first quarter
Okay,
all the
yeah.
way, so that's the overall number that we,
Bill.
actually, that we know that we got, that we received. We received the 1.2 mil.
That we actually got.
Yeah, that was deposited. On the last page, this is the data that you guys requested from 2018 since it had closed and we moved on into 19. Kind of give you an idea, Jim Freeman wrote this up for me back in December. Overall, in 2018, to kind of give you an idea, we billed for $3.7 million. After we got looking at Medicare and Medicaid and other insurance, things like that, we had to write off. We lost $2,034,000 just from simply Medicare and Medicaid. There was also write-offs of $84,000 that couldn't be billed for lack of medical necessity, which means the patient didn't meet the need for an ambulance. And my kind of rule is I look at these guys, it's not the patient's fault. We do sometimes take patients back to the nursing homes from the hospital, just out of good faith, because it's not their fault that they don't have transport or anything like that. So we do that occasionally. But we lost 84 to that. 292,000 of that went to collections in 18. And out of that, we've only received 23,000, it appears, so 8% of that.
Who does your collection?
It's called New World Collections. I don't know, and I actually was thinking about this the other day. I don't know if they're partnered with ambulance billing or if it's somebody that Dave Murphy had originally picked. Because I've always heard New World Collections from the get-go. So I don't know if this is somebody that I look at as picking a collection agency.
I would like to, how we do that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So you're saying out of $300,000, they only collected 23?
According to this, yes, on his data that he gave me.
That's not a very good turnaround.
No. And they get 33% of that. So I don't know if that's what we actually received or if that's 33% off that number, then what we received. So that left us with 1.3 of potential revenue. We received 1.289, so 95% of potential revenue we received. With a balance still of 63,000 when he ran that, and that's just for simple insurance payments, monthly payments that people are making plans on, appeals, workman's comp, and things like that that people don't pay, or still paying monthly stuff.
So here it is, $2,900,000. We're only getting.
Any questions on finishing out runs and any data or money?
I think I remember what you said, hearing you say over there, the same thing I'm seeing. Our total charges was $3,764,000, and our posted credits was $1,289,000 is what we've actually collected, and that represents 95% of the potential revenue. I don't know.
Well, on some of that, they're hamstrung with Medicare and Medicaid,
Yeah.
they're gonna tell them what they're gonna charge them.
And if I might add, I talked to Bob about this the other day, it's only gonna get worse because there's a bill out there getting ready to get passed that allow private insurance agencies to do this as well. So once they say, we're gonna pay you $250, that's what you're gonna get.
Well, they kinda
And
do
you
that
can't-
to the hospitals.
Yeah, and you can't send the patient anymore, you can't bill them for that. So what they give you is what they get, so potentially, in the next few years, that number could go down even
If that
more.
rate, I guess to do that, I think they'd have to have a generalized rate that the ambulance service, the high and the lows, and go in the middle and say, here's what we're gonna pay. Some of them are probably gouging people, and some of them probably, aren't. But it has to be an average, it can't be just, hey, here's the number we're gonna pay you and forget it.
Yeah, because
Like the
Jim
other
said,
says.
our best idea is to reach out to you all, reach out to the representative and have them try to essentially stop the bill, is what he said, because it's only gonna get worse for agencies like us, because he told me on the phone, we are the only agency that he represents that is still self-sustaining, that we don't receive any sort of stipends or anything from the county. He said, which is unheard of, and I'm afraid that if the insurance agents do that, even these private ones, it's gonna hurt us.
Well,
That's where I sit.
right now, you're right, you're self-sufficient right now, and I talked to other commissioners around southern Indiana, and Washington County's struggling.
Yeah.
And they're, upside down 2 ways a Sunday, and Clark County is in the position right now where Yellow got bought out, was it A&R?
AMR.
AMR.
They're getting ready, they're thinking about pulling out.
And AMR came in, but all they wanted to do after they bought out Yellow was to do hospital runs and transfers, because that's where all their money comes from. So now they've got an issue down there with animal service. Harrison County's got the same problem, Floyd County's got the same problem, so and they all look at me, because when we have these roundtables, they're all, how do you keep sustaining your animal service? Because, I mean, everybody wants to know how we do it, because they want to do it, but we've been blessed to keep it as long as we have without being tax funded. I mean, so with that, I think we're still on the right path, even if we're.
So out of the $1,262,000 collected,
You on the Excel one?
on the,
Okay.
that's, $1,262,000 is what was deposited,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, every Friday I get an email from Inglis Bill that says pretty much what insurance deposited what, and I keep
And
track
that
of
was,
that.
and that was, and this is for last year, correct?
Yeah, 19, yes.
Okay, and what was our expenditures to run the service?
We went through and we actually had, we expenditured 109,000, it looks like, well, sorry, $101,355,977.28. So we had $1,355,997.28.
So we went home.
They said we had an expenditure of $212,614.
So we went whole last year, is what you.
Not according to the budget here.
Well, if you deposited $1,262,000 and you spent $1,355,000, you wasn't whole, correct?
If you look at that number, yes. But as far as our budget, we rolled over at the beginning of 2018 with a cash balance of $507,412.66.
Okay, I'm not seeing all everything that you're seeing.
Okay, that's just something I have printed.
Yeah, I'm not seeing all that. I'm seeing that if you, it's got a match. I mean, if you deposited $1,262,479 and you spent out $1,355,000, you've hit a deficit there on what it cost you. So now, whether you took the money or not out, again, it's kind of like me, if I take it out of my bank account, out of my savings account, I still went in the hole, is what I'm trying to say. So that's that's the numbers that I'm interested in is, okay, is if this was your totally deposits for 19 was $1,262,000, then yes, I am concerned that we have a shortfall. If we
That was
spend.
18, wasn't it?
No, he's looking at 19. Because if you look at this,
I don't have that, I don't guess.
this is what Pat gave me yesterday. The receipts is what we took in, right? So we took in for 19 receipts, we received $1,863,389.
Okay, so that's not what I'm seeing here.
Okay, well, I
Okay, yeah,
apologize.
so, yeah, because the numbers that you had was the one.
That's just deposits, that's all that
Okay.
is. That's all that is deposits. Because we receive training institute money, CPR money, all that gets deposited, and that's what we receive. That is just what we receive from insurance agencies itself.
Okay.
So that's not including.
Okay, so we actually was $1,800,000 and it was $1,355,000.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
that's why we
there's
had
your
unexpended.
$500,000 that you, okay.
Yes.
All right, now.
I apologize.
Yeah, I didn't have
This
that
is just
sheet.
something I had that was given me
Okay.
yesterday. I apologize. That's all.
And I guess my other question would be there is over the course, bins or runs is what I'm seeing here. You got 17, 18, and 19. Actually 18 was down, 19 was up a little bit, back up some. But comparably, is that about what it
runs
typically
Um,
to run the service, and how much we are, I guess, putting, I'm gonna call it rat holing for a better word, that we're putting it back to continue the service, because again, going back to what Mike's saying, is that, it's got to be self-supporting, and so 500,000 is basically what we've come up with this year. that you started out with.
Yeah, we
right?
started with a cash levy
Yeah.
of 500.
So is that pretty well standard, or is that
It,
shortfall or long?
it stays about that. It would have been a little bit more, but when Jacob was still here, we bought 2 trucks at 300-something thousand, so that depleted that cash fund overall a little bit as well, because we got down to 1 truck at one point, so we had to do something. But when you look at 16 and 17, comparing 18, 19, and this year so far, from what I ran, 16 obviously was a big year for us, with everybody knows what was going on. 17 it started trickling, and 18 we had a lot of programs in place that is working. And it ultimately contributed to a lot of our runs. Now it looks like it kind of tapered off and looked like we're trending back up. I know for the past couple of years, that 1.2 million that we received was right on. Because if you look at what Jim gave me, 18, what we received in 19, they're very similar, they're very close, give or take $50,000 to $60,000. So we're still trucking right along at the correct number, because whenever I'm talking to people, we give or take, 400 to 500 runs around 5,000. So this year we did a little over 4,500. So that puts us right about, even when, I hate referring to him, when Jacob was here, when we interviewed people, and we tell them about the service, that was a number that we always give them, and it's pretty much just stayed right along those lines. So,
Okay.
I had a couple of things. I saw where your overdoses, and you have that on here, how many overdose runs you run, or just you?
I would have to specifically look for
Okay,
that chief complaint.
That's fine. And one reason I bring this up is that, I think I've talked to you all out of a meeting about this, is that the health department's, has a report that shows overdoses where they're handing out Narcan, and when they people come back in there the next month or whatever in the next month and they're giving them more Narcan, they're asking them, and some of them are saying, yeah, we, so many people with Narcan, Narcan, so many people, whatever. Those people, and I was talking to Greg Maroney about it with 911, is that those people aren't getting recorded anywhere. You're not transporting those people.
No, we don't even know about them.
So those are somewhere in the midst of, they're handing out anywhere from 35 to 40 vials of Narcan a month, and they're saying that, so if they're handing out this month, they come back next month and it's 45 again, so, do the math, either they're storing it or 45 more people's, overdose. So, I mean, there's those runs that you had in 16 and 17 that you're not getting now, because now they're not reporting. They're not calling 911, and they're not transporting them, so.
Essentially, yeah.
So the other part of that, that's a question I have on the runs. How's the paramedic class going?
We're still trucking at 21 people. They're getting ready to start their clinicals. Everybody's doing good. Our site visits getting ready to come up sometime in March and April. We're supposed to give them 3 sets of dates, and then they pick what date they're coming. So COA, which is the accreditation people that we use, is coming up from Texas. Meeting Jacob, we got myself, Crosdale, interviewed current students, past students, clinical staff, and look to see if we get our full-fledged accreditation. So that's still,
out of those 21 people, how many of them are local?
one is in Scott County itself, 3.
And they work for us now?
There's 4 that work for me. There's 3 that live in county.
Okay.
1 lives in Washington County. That's taken.
So outside of that, I know I saw an ad in the paper, are you fully staffed, or are you?
Well, we were. I'm using a paramedic to actually be the director at Washington County EMS. So that puts me down a paramedic, so now I'm back down to 5 medics in an open spot. So,
You can full-time over there?
Oh, yeah.
You wanna work over here in?
He said he wants to remain part-time and work on weekends.
Will he doing that now?
Actually, I think it gets approved tomorrow.
Approved by?
Through the commissioners, they make the announcement, and then it goes into effect tomorrow, 20th. If he told me it was correct.
Wait a minute, you said approved by the commissioners?
They're making, I guess, their announcement. I'm just going off what I was told.
You're talking about your board?
No. I thought you were talking about Washington County.
No. Next one work.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. I meant coming back work over here.
Oh, yeah, he's coming back part-time, yeah, because there's some things that he has to do, and then he'll completely separate himself, and then he wants to come back when I open up the pool
Was
as a
that a whole
part-time.
new hiring process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's some stuff that he needs to do, I guess, to, yeah, without getting into
That's all
details.
I got.
Real quick on the monitors, I always want to bring it to you guys' attention. Our cardiac monitors we currently use come in February 2021. The FDA is no longer going back to them. And that means pretty much that once this goes into effect,
The brand,
yeah, the brand and the model. There's only going to be 2 cardiac monitors that's going to be allowed for pre-hospital, the Zoll X series and the LifePak 15s. So therefore, they're pretty much tying our hands to one of those 2 cardiac monitors. And by the FDA not backing them up, which means we can still utilize them, but if something breaks, we can't get parts, nobody will service them, and if something happens, they can malfunction on a patient, we are completely liable, we will not have the FDA backing.
that's early.
That's the kick in the head right there. One price right now, they're quoting me $29,000 for one monitor, and that's a Zoll. I talked to
One monitor?
one monitor is $29,000.
How many we got right now?
6. So $178,920 is what 6 is going to cost. That's only one brand. This is only one quote. I talked to the physio guy, which runs and sells LifePak 15s. He said he could come in under that number. There's other avenues we can go. We can look at refurbs that come with warranties that are backed by the FDA. It's whatever you guys want to do. LifePak offers 7 years, 0%. If you want to find it, there's all kinds of avenues that we can go. I'm just bringing it to your
Can I
attention.
ask you another question?
So-
Is there any grants out there?
No, not that I know of, I should say, not that I know of. I'm going to look into that because that would be the biggest thing to help us out. There's a website that is directed for EMS grants only. I would say that there are people applying for them.
Homeland security grants or anything?
I don't know about Homeland Security. I know that you don't have to pay for it, but it's a like a profile you set up, and they tell you all the grants that are available, the ones that are specific to Indiana only.
So the ones that we have,
Mhm.
that we got 6 of them, they were approved by the FDA.
They were, yes.
So why are they not approved now? Do you-
They're still backed until February 2021. I guess there was a lot of stuff, there has been lawsuits and stuff that came along with these malfunctioning devices. They're actually pulling out of all hospitals,
So
all
lost their
pre-hospital.
credibility.
Yes, and Philips is choosing not to send a single monitor through this program. They're sending their AEDs, which are a lot cheaper, and I've talked to some of these reps, and that's what a lot of these agencies are going to. They're putting monitors on the primary trucks, like they're the first through third out, and then putting AEDs on the trucks that are backups. That way you're not having a $29,000 machine just sitting there not being utilized.
But you never know when you're gonna need it.
Exactly. So I have a lot of thinking, I should say, and figuring out what I need to do, what's the best route for us, the cheapest but the most efficient piece of equipment.
So these is good, they're good through this year is what you're telling me?
Yeah, they're good till February 2021. So I want to go ahead and kind of get the ball rolling. I'm just letting you all know that there's a big capital purchase that could potentially coming up in the next few years. The quote for this one, essentially, I fish a lot, the Ranger boat of the fishing world. It comes with all kinds of bells and whistles. But there's that Phillips, he said he could beat that price with the same bells and whistles that comes with it. So
Are they compatible with the hospital?
that's what we're gonna have to look at. The current ones we have now are compatible, so when we come in with our N-Title hooked up and somebody's innovative or they're on the benefit pads, we can plug them straight in. I talked to Amanda, who's the ER director, and the med surg director, we're moving towards Souls, which is the expensive one.
Because they're gonna have to do it and change theirs.
Yes, they're gonna have to do it as well, because I went over there and was talking to her to make sure she was aware of the changes that were coming. So they're leaning towards the Zols.
They
You know, I
say it
told,
would probably be compatible.
yeah,
Well, and again, though, I don't know, all hospitals, are they gonna be under the same one that we're gonna be compatible with? I mean, that's gonna be the problem.
But if there's only gonna be, you got a 50-50 chance, because there's only gonna be two
they
companies.
only two, yeah. It puts people in a bind with limited budgets. I mean, because there's smaller county agencies that's
So I guess the
$200,000 is what's coming out of the
question is if you run 3 trucks, and 3 trucks are pretty much backup trucks, correct?
We have 2 primary and 3 backup, yes. And then you also got chase vehicles, they have the Phillips in them as well. You know, do you get Ford and Chancellor with the other ones? I don't want that
No, I don't
liability.
either.
So, you know, it's essentially gonna look at 6 or.
Plus the thing about that is the pads, everything else you need are gonna.
Yeah, because all the stuff we have right now are made for Phillips, so we're gonna have to rebuy everything. But I tell you, I can get with Jacob, because I know he bought all new monitors, and see which route he did and who he went through.
Well, I venture to say if they're telling you gotta go to this new model in one of two companies, there's probably not too many refurbished units out on the market.
No, because I asked the Zolak guy, and he said those are going like wildfire right now.
Yeah.
He said you might get 1 or 2 if you're lucky.
Okay. That's a big hit.
So, any other questions, gentlemen? Thanks.
I think that's it.
All right,
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah.
All right, next up is the consideration of the minutes from January 9th.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made, second.
And may I ask real quickly, if you don't mind, do they need to approve the 15th as well, the 9th and the 15th on the minutes?
Mhm.
So
And
that's,
then you need to get that agreement to me, to get notarized, or Jill take it.
she took it.
And you've got a copy.
And I'm sorry, I didn't get it at the 15th because we didn't think we were going to approve them tonight, so.
You got,
He said-
we got a copy of it right here.
Yes, and he gave you the green light to do that.
Yeah.
And the 15th.
And the 15th, thank
All
you.
right, and the second, the 9th and the 15th, that's unanimous. Okay, next is payroll docket ratification for February 14th. That's her,
I'll make a motion.
second. Unanimous. Next is claim considerations for payable to Kentucky out of court reporting.
You've got a
Is
copy.
that $350?
Yeah, I think it was, I think I seen that in here a minute ago.
It's $350.65, and that's just because somebody lost an invoice somewhere and they just after us for the money, so. Because that was off the last year claim.
Yes, lost an invoice, so $350.65, got a motion over here, second, unanimous. I'll sign off down here at the bottom of this, is that the one you need?
Right here.
Yeah, that'll do. And,
That EDC, River Hills EDC board appointment, we're missing one person, so I don't know if you guys had a nomination, if not, we'll just leave it for next meeting.
You mentioned a name on that EDC a while back,
Oh, I said something about
Brian.
Byron.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to him.
Okay. I'm okay with that, I don't think it's one. We want to wait on that?
yeah, let's hold off on that one there, because I'll talk to him, find out. All right,
You mentioned him?
I can do that for you.
all right, I guess that's it then,
Yes, it is.
because we done the other, anything?
Yeah, I want to bring up something that, first time in my life, I guess, it's going to happen this next election cycle, but we're not going to have a funeral home that is the coroner. And in turn, we're going to have to find a place for a new coroner to do autopsies and an office and a space. And I know when Kelly was alive and still here, he had worked it through the hospital up until the point where I think they actually agreed to supply us 2 rooms out there to put a cooler and to put a table and an office. But since the administrators changed hands out there, I don't know if that cycle's got to start over again. But, you know, one of the other options we have is possibly using the old health department. And it's sitting empty right now. We could put a cooler in there, put a table, put an office, and because the funeral homes will not be able to be utilized like they have for the last 200 years. So,
Yeah, and,
So we've got till January 1.
We have, I think if I'm not mistaken, we have some portable coolers,
Well,
but then,
they're a kind of a tent type of situation. They're not, their 9th district EMA's got a portable morgue, I guess you would call it, but that's something you couldn't be able to utilize like that. And at one time, Jerry Buchanan had a list of stuff that materials, the table, the cooler and stuff, and I think it was less than $10,000 is what he came up with. All we need to do is find a place, so.
and again, this has been the first time that that this has ever taken place. Again, I don't know that, whether we would have to have a transport vehicle for them, correct?
Well, most of the time, 99% of the time EMS transports.
EMS,
And actually, I know some of the funeral homes reimburse EMS for doing that. So, but it would be something it'd be kind of like changing hands. I mean, you got a coroner, which is a county employee, calling the county ambulance service to transport bodies, so that'd be something too.
Yeah.
Because 9 out of 10 times, if you go out to a scene that a coroner's called to, EMS transports the person.
Well, then, like I say, we do need to go to work on that, and I don't know if that's something that
There's just one person running that probably.
no, there's actually,
He's got a deputy coroner. You talking about the coroner?
no, that's running in the election.
Oh, yeah, two.
There's 2 candidates on that, yeah.
Republican and a Democrat.
I only knew one.
So,
And we're kind of stuck with what they want to do too, aren't we? I mean,
that's not what they want to do. I mean, it's what we're going to provide them.
that's true with all of us, but we usually
But
talk
it's
to
never,
people who run the office.
it's never happened before, so it's going to be a big twist. And I've been talking to Jerry Buchanan for months now about it. And then, of course, right on the last day of signing up, I called him and he goes, nope. Which he can't run. Jerry can't run again. It's an eight-year term and he can't run again anyway, so.
Yeah, just like I said, this is the first time that I can ever remember that it wasn't somebody in the funeral home business has not
That's,
done it.
it's either been a Buchanan or a Collins.
Been pretty well, yeah. And,
So it's gonna be a big, and I don't even know how it's gonna look, because one of them's running as a police officer and the other one's a EMS.
yeah.
I have information back on the same unit in one, that I can talk to you guys about.
Well, like I say,
But anyway, we have an avenue, but I'd still, I'm gonna get back to the hospital and, see if, ideally, that's always been, that was always Jerry's best avenue, is that they just give us 2 rooms out there and we utilize that. If somebody passes away in the hospital, they can roll down the hallway, so, and that place is always open, so.
is that, probably what we need to do is try to make contact with them? Is that something that, you want to do?
Yeah, I'll do
You do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll hold out hope that I don't need any of the newly elected services on that for the next 4 years. I'll hold out that we.
Depends on how many dinners you take.
Yeah, there you go. All right, anything on your part, John?
No.
And, I'm gonna ask you, your time.
All I need to do is have you guys sign the minutes, and if you'll be patient, I'll run that 15th off really quickly, get you to sign. I've got a few minutes for you to sign, but other than that, I don't have anything.
Okay.
Just need your signature.
All right, we can do that, okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second. Unanimous, we're out of here, thank you all.
I'm gonna leave this place.
Yep, see you.
So, guys, I'll run your minutes off really quickly.
You all right?
Hey, Tammy, can you do one big favor? Can you send to River Hills tomorrow on email